Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Marvel. My girlfriend saves the world, and I am responsible for dating. Chapter 81. Gotham City. Weather. Due to its geographical location, the weather in this city is mostly cloudy. Even at noon every day, the sky is always filled with thick gray lead clouds, and it looks like it is about to rain. Today's weekend is as cloudy as ever in Gotham. Of course, people living in this city have long been accustomed to this. Russell, a black Rolls-Royce with an extended top version, drove into the manor. The vehicle drove gently without any bumps or vibrations, and finally stopped in front of the iron gate of a large private manor house. The driver's seat opens. The driver in a suit and leather shoes stepped out quickly and skillfully, opened the rear door respectfully, and bent down to block the upper edge of the door in a standard manner. The red-haired girl had obviously never experienced this kind of treatment. She jumped down from the luxurious soft seat without being accustomed to it. She almost landed on the ground in her uniform and long skirt, and the iron door of the manor in front of her slowly opened inward. "Please, Miss Wanda." The driver raised his arm respectfully. Wanda looked in the direction she was pointing, and what came into view was a very large manor that looked like a royal castle, with tall tower-like buildings looking up into the dark sky of Gotham. "Is this really the housekeeper training base that Miss Diana mentioned?" Wanda entered the iron gate and walked along the corridor inside the manor. Many maids who were building green plants and doing hygiene in the yard bowed politely and friendly gestures after seeing her. Wanda also nodded quickly in response. "Are you Miss Wanda?" A gentle and amiable voice suddenly came from the front. Wanda subconsciously raised her eyes and saw an old man with pale hair and a neat suit standing in front of the castle-like manor building. "Yes, hello, old gentleman." The current overly luxurious environment, with the inexplicable sense of oppression called power and authority, made Wanda bow with some restraint. The old man smiled and nodded. "I am Alfred Pennyworth. In view of Miss Diana's commission, you can call me teacher." Wayne Manor, the main reception hall on the first floor. Wanda sat on the chair obediently and calmly, with her short lowly feet dangling in the air, completely unable to touch the carpet underneath. Butler AFU poured Wanda a cup of hot coffee. His hand was so steady that the coffee in the cup did not tremble at all, and his body seemed stronger than his old appearance. "How do you feel?" Butler AFU asked kindly. Wanda held the coffee cup in both hands and warmed her little hands. She glanced at the grand main hall. The expensive and retro interior was still refreshing her perception of luxury. This also made her more reserved and nervous, and she whispered, "It doesn't feel like I'm here for housekeeper training. You all treat me like a young lady." "Ha ha ha ha, that's right." Butler AFU couldn't help but feel happy, and then he blinked and asked, "You don't know the identity of the Prince family, do you?" Identity? Wanda's little head tilted. How to explain it? Butler AFU pondered for a moment and said, "Let's put it this way. The young Master Wayne who I serve as the head of the Wayne Consortium. As for the Wayne Consortium, its market value exceeds 100 billion, including technology, education, medical care, transportation and other industries. Most of the things that can be seen in Gotham City are the industries of the Wayne Consortium." Wanda's eyes widened in surprise. She had heard of the Wayne Group many times in New York. Butler AFU paused and continued, "The Prince family can be on an equal footing with the Wayne family. So, as the only maid of the Prince family and the future housekeeper, you can salute according to the rules, but you don't have to bow to anyone, even the so-called nobles and officials. After all, your identity represents the people who serve behind you. As for the family, it is the master's face that will be ruined by bowing his head." After being baptized by Butler AFU's words, Wanda obviously had a better understanding of Sheenian and the Prince family, which also made her appear less reserved and nervous. Seeing that the effect of the first lesson had been achieved, Butler AFU cleared his throat and said in a warm voice, "Then let's get to the point of today. Before the official butler training, I want to ask you a question. What do you think is the most important quality of a steward?" Wanda thought about it seriously and said hesitantly, "Loyalty. Loyalty is a must. It is the foundation of foundations." Steward AFU said with a smile, "I think the most important quality of a steward should be a sense of mission." Sense of mission? Wanda was stunned for a moment. Yes, not only superheroes need a sense of mission, but butlers must also have a unique sense of mission. Butler AFU said in an orderly manner. The steward's sense of mission is naturally to better serve the master. However, it is not just about completing what the master tells him to do. That is just the obligation of an ordinary servant. Butler, you need to understand what the master really needs and wants, complete preparations and plans early, and serve as a powerful assistant on the road ahead for the master. Furthermore, when the master takes the wrong path or is lost, he needs to provide certain guidance and help. Quote, a steward with a sense of mission needs to have the belief to dedicate his life. Butler AFU asked with a clear gaze on Wanda, who was only 13 years old. You are still young, you have done a good job, are you ready for enlightenment? Little Wanda took a breath, and the figure of the black-haired boy appeared in her mind. She said firmly, I can do it. Butler AFU nodded. In order to do this, you need to learn more than the master, and cover a wider range of subjects, not just like cleaning, but also etiquette, communication, fighting, shooting, intelligence, management, psychology, etc. That, little Wanda hesitated and asked, then I have to come to this city often? Wanda didn't think it was far, but once it was like this, she would have to get up early and set off on weekends. Just like today, there was no way to wake Xinyan up and prepare breakfast. Butler AFU smiled and said, you don't have to come to Gotham to study on weekends in the future. I will arrange professional personnel to teach you in your school. Wanda's eyes lit up slightly, and she asked curiously, will the school agree? Of course. Butler AFU nodded and said firmly, before today, with the authorization of Master Wayne, I have bought the school you are currently studying in. At this time, Washington, the central city, on the busiest sidewalk. Xinyan stopped in shock and looked at the bald woman who called herself Ji Yi next to him. Are you talking to me? Xinyan glanced at the pedestrians around him, and for a moment he suspected that the other party was talking to someone else. Xinyan Prince. Say his name accurately. Ji Yi's face, whose age could not be seen, was calm. When he looked at Xinyan, there was a faint smile on the corner of his mouth. No need to look, the person I'm looking for is you. What did you do? Facing Ji Yi, whose origin was unknown, Xinyan asked in surprise. He became more and more aware that something was wrong. The pedestrians walking on the sidewalk didn't just miss Ancient One. Even Xinyan himself began to go unnoticed by passers-by. Some passers-by treated Ji Yi and Xinyan as if they were just air and could not see them, so they bumped into them head-on and passed through their bodies in a strange way. Ji Yi and Xinyan seemed to be in a disembodied state. It didn't do anything. It just pulled you and the little beast in your school bag into the mirror space. Ji Yi said with a faint smile. Mirror space. Xinyan frowned. Just then, the red light at the intersection switched to green. Only 2 people were left standing on the sidewalk, and the vehicles on the road began to move. Xinyan subconsciously avoided the vehicle approaching from his side. As for Ji Yi in front, he still stood motionless and allowed the accelerating vehicle to hit his body. No, it didn't hit. The vehicle, like the passers-by just now, passed directly through Ji Yi's body. Xinyan tried to grab the body of the car passing by, but he couldn't touch the body of the car. There was a strange scene of broken glass in front of him where his fingertips touched. Are we in the mirror? Xinyan said to himself as if he was aware of it. Ji Yu nodded and explained softly. To be more precise, it is in another dimensional space. This dimension is very close to our real world, just like a mirror, so we call this place a mirror image space, which is convenient for observing the real world. You, Xinyan raised his eyebrows. Yes, we. Ji Yi looked at Xinyan and said bluntly, I come from the Kamatage Temple and am a supreme mage. Mage. Xinyan thought about it for a moment, then kept his hand on the zipper of his school bag without moving away. This is the Ancient One Master. What do you want to see me for? If he encounters an emergency later, he can only let Xiao Huang bite him to gain extraordinary abilities. However, the dormant venom is still parasitic in Xiao Huang's body. If he is bitten by Xiao Huang, he will probably transform into the previous 3 in one extraordinary state. The triad will blur and distort personality and rationality, making his behavior more like an evil villain. There is another way, which is to directly let the Yuan-devouring beast cub take action. I don't mean any harm, I just want to invite you to visit Kamal Taj. Ji Yuyi seemed to know the defensiveness in Xinian's heart and looked at him calmly. But even if I say this, you won't believe it. She lowered her head and glanced at the backpack on Xinian's chest, and suddenly suggested, that's good, you can let it try. This is what you said. Xinian did not hesitate and suddenly shouted, Little Emperor. Following his cry, an orange figure suddenly jumped out of the zipper of the backpack hanging on his chest. Xiaohuang, the cub of the cosmic element devouring beast, quickly rushed towards Ji Yuyi in front. Its small mouth split horribly to form a bloody mouth, and several tentacles full of small teeth enveloped Shang Ji Yuyi's body. Ji Yuyi's face was calm, and he stared at the approaching tentacles and fangs. The right hand that had been carried behind his back suddenly pushed out a palm. Bang! The moment Ji Yuyi's palm hit the little queen's body, a yellow shadow that resembled an element-eating beast and a shadow that looked like a ball of black liquid were all shot out of the little queen's back. As for Xiaohuang's body, he passed out and returned to his original appearance of an ordinary kitten, then fell back into Xinian's arms. Xiaohuang's shadow floated in the air, and he called out in surprise, meow. The venom shadow remained motionless, floating in the low air like a dead one. They're fine, it's just that I knocked out their souls. Ji Yuyi retracted his palm and explained calmly. It's a bit too much. The corner of Xinian's mouth twitched slightly. He felt that even the 3-in-1 might not be enough for the current Ancient One. After all, they won't play physical attacks with you at all. Right, I remember that my aunt's mantra lasso can trap everything. Maybe that one can deal with existences involving souls and the like. Ancient One continued. Now, believe what I say. I don't have any ill intentions towards you, I just want to invite you to visit Kamatage. If someone who knew the inside story knew about it, they would probably doubt everything that happened in front of them. Kamatage. That is the legendary Temple of Miracles, an unknowable place that many people have been searching for their entire lives but have never been able to enter. Just go, where is it? Xinian saw Ji Yuyi's sincerity and really wanted to explore the mysteries of spells and magic flow in this world, so he nodded and agreed. Here, Ji Yuyi first stretched out his finger to let the soul of the Yuan devouring beast and the soul of venom fall back to the main body of the Yuan devouring beast. She then raised her palm and inexplicably drew circles in the air. As the hot sparks appeared in front of her, they spun into wheels and soon formed a circular teleportation hole that allowed people to pass through. Seeing Ji Yuyi step into the strange portal, Xinian was not afraid, and followed Xiaohuang into it while he was gradually waking up. Kathmandu's secluded residence, Kamatage. On the ancient training ground in the open air of the temple. Master Modu, who was wearing a black robe, was serving as a mage instructor, leading more than a dozen mages, both young and old, to practice spells. At this time, the air next to him suddenly rippled like glass fragments. It was the mirror space. However, even the most powerful mage Mordo could not see the things in the mirror space at this time. As if he realized something, Mordo was slightly moved, and he and the other mages saluted respectfully and enthusiastically towards the void on the side of the glass mirror. Supreme Mage. Go on. The voice of Ancient One came from the inner part of the mirror space. Okay, let's continue practicing. Mordo seemed a little excited. After all, the Supreme Mage had not seen them practicing in person for a long time. He immediately led the mages on the ancient training ground to practice spells. What they didn't know was, at this time, the inner part of the mirror space. In addition to Ancient One, there was a boy holding a cat next to him. In the mirror space, as if in the real ancient training ground, Xinian looked carefully at the mages in the temple outside. They all wore a strange ring on their hands, as if using it as a medium for magic tools, condensing out of thin air into golden energy seal-round shields, energy whips, and even drawing the cool and dazzling portal just now. Unexpectedly, in addition to the organizations formed by superheroes, there are also such a large-scale mage force hidden in the world. Xinian's eyes lit up slightly. Let's not talk about how this spell works in actual combat, but it looks very practical. For example, the portal, I will never be afraid of being late for school in the future. How? Ji Yuyi looked at Xinian and smiled lightly as if to guide him intentionally. If you want to learn, I will teach you. Karmatage, the interior of mirror space. Teach me, Xinian blinked. Yes. Ji Yuyi nodded slightly and said calmly and firmly, if you want to learn, you can join Kamatage and I will teach you the spells. Xinian did not feel happy, but frowned. He doesn't think that he is gifted and is valued by transcendent forces. Although many years ago, he had imagined that one day an owl would suddenly come to deliver a message, or that a doctor from Chicago would say that he had dragon genes or something. Still the same sentence. 16 years later, everything is gone. Are there any restrictions for joining Kamatage? Xinian asked cautiously. There are no extraordinary mages appearing in the outside world. Obviously, there are enough restrictions for joining Kamatage. Ancient One said softly. Once you join Kamatage and become a mage of Kamatage, you will be destined to be hidden at the back of the world, unable to easily use your own spells in reality, and shoulder the important responsibility of protecting the world. To prevent the Earth from being invaded by terrorist beings from higher dimensions. Protect the world and fight against high dimensions. When Xinian heard this, he shook his head decisively. Forget it, I'm not the one who can save the world. Yu Dao Dao. If it's you, you just need to register your name in Kamatage. After learning the spell portal, you can enter and exit Kamatage at will to study in the future, and the rules of Kamatage will not be restricted to you. Quote. Is there such a good thing? Xinian felt more and more something was wrong. Even if he didn't understand anything, he could still tell that Ji Yuyi's words must be a huge exception for Kamatage. Mage. Xinian took a deep breath to calm down. Say. Ji Yu nodded. Xinian looked at her seriously and asked with uncontrollable excitement, did you see that I have extraordinary talents and am a top genius in learning spells? Ji Yuyi stared at Xinian silently, and after a long time he said, I can indeed see whether a person has the potential to be in tune with nature and learn magic. Xinian said quickly, then tell me, if I start learning your spell portal from now on, how long will it take? 1 year, or half a year? Ji Yuyi hesitated to speak, then stretched out a finger and answered bluntly, 100 years and 1 day. Xinian's breath suddenly stopped. This mage, are you kidding me? Also, are you sure I can live to be 100 years from now? Ancient One comforted him. Actually, this is not bad. Most of the human beings in the world are physically unable to sense natural energy and practice magic. Let's forget it. Xinian looked hopeless. He was born to like to take shortcuts. Not to mention letting him study for 100 years, even if he was guaranteed to be proficient in 10 years, he would not waste his time here. If you have this time and energy, wouldn't you do something else? That's right. A flash of light flashed in Xinian's mind, and he suddenly asked Ji Yuyi, Mage, can I transfer my quota to someone else? Ji Yuyi looked at him deeply and said calmly, do you want to transfer your place to the red-haired girl in your family? You know this. Xinian really wanted Wanda to come to Kamatage to study. After all, he is at least semi-supernatural, while Wanda is just an ordinary person. If he learns magic, he can deal with certain dangers in the future. Besides, what my maid learned is also my own, so the quota will be in vain. Xinian raised his eyes and asked curiously, then Master Ji Yuyi. Can you tell, Wanda, that she has the potential to learn your spells? Ancient One fell silent again. Finally, she stretched out a finger. 10,000 times faster than you. What did you say? Xinian suspected that he had heard wrongly. Washington neighborhood, crossroads. The no traveling red light was on, and pedestrians were coming and going on the sidewalk. Among the crowd, the black-haired boy holding the little orange cat suddenly appeared, as if he had been here from the beginning to the present, and no one was curious about his sudden appearance. Master, Kamatage, Shi Young murmured in a low voice, then followed the steps of passers-by, hugged Xiaohuang and continued walking towards the end of the pedestrian street. Not far from Barry Allen's home, Xinian saw Barry walking on the street from a distance. He was still dressed in a jacket and casual pants. Only, just when Xinian wanted to wave and say hello, he seemed to have an insight into something at the next moment, and without hesitation, he turned around and returned with Xiaohuang in his arms. Meow. Xiaohuang tilted his head in confusion. Let's go buy small fish and dry it, so don't disturb others. Xinian smiled knowingly. He just saw it. Next to Barry was a beautiful black girl. They were talking and laughing, as if they were immersed in their own world. Night. Xinian returned home with large and small bags of goods, mostly cat food. The two women at home, one large and one young, had not returned home yet, so the dark house seemed a little deserted. Take a bath and feed the cat. Xinian was lying down on the comfortable sofa, turning on the TV, and there was the sound of the door opening. Master, I'm back. Zhu Shengsheng's voice sounded from the door with a hint of softness. Xinian subconsciously looked up, his eyes immediately showing a look of surprise. The one who came back was Wanda, who went to Gotham to study. It's just that the girl put on a bright red dress. The background color of the dress echoed the crimson hair, making the girl's neck, wrists, and feet exposed to the air look even darker than the first snow falling from the winter sky. White and flawless. With Wanda's doll-like delicate face, she looks calm and good-looking no matter what she wears. The current high-end small red dress seems to be born for young girls, making her look like an aristocratic princess walking out of a modern oil painting. And the white semi-transparent silk scarf around her head and neck made this noble temperament become more docile. Princess, maid. These two completely different identities seemed to merge into one. Xinian's heart skipped a beat. Cute, think. What are you thinking about? Just come back. Xinian forced his eyes away and landed on the TV screen. Ah, it's almost 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm going to make dinner right now. Wanda took off her black boots, looked at the time, and said in a panic. No need to make dinner today. Xinian waved his hand and said, I ate some outside and bought a cheesecake. Let's eat together. Wanda nodded gently. She looked at Xinian on the sofa, her face hesitated for a moment, then she mustered up the courage and walked forward with determination. The cake is. Before Xinian finished speaking, he stopped again, but saw Wanda coming to him. The girl sat next to Xinian on the sofa. She also supported the sofa with her little hands and leaned forward with her body and face. Wanda's face showed tiredness and expectation, and she whispered, Wanda worked very hard today. She listened to Teacher Afu's lectures and also learned a lot of things including etiquette from the head maid. Although she was very tired, she still persevered. They are all praising me, but... At this point, her words stopped, with some hesitation and unspeakable shyness. Seeing the little maid's demanding and submissive gesture, Xinian seemed to understand something at this moment. He put his hand on Wanda's little head, smiled and gently touched her hair a few times. Thank you, Wanda, you did a great job. The crimson maid is like a kitten, half lying on the couch looking for a reward. Xinian put his hand on her head with a touch of affection, and with a gentle touch, his palm rubbed against the white semi-transparent silk scarf and the silky crimson hair, giving off an indescribable and excellent touch that was better than Xiao Huang's. Wanda's flawless little face turned slightly red, compared to Xinian's deliberate control. She rubbed her head upwards subconsciously, increasing the friction between her hands and herself. Finally, she raised her little head a little, letting her big hands pass through the smooth crimson hair, slide down and touch the girl's warm face. Compared to the praises from 10 or even hundreds of people in Gotham, she obviously wanted Xinian's rewards and praises more. Okay, let's eat the cake. Xinian retracted his hand as if he was electrocuted and said, pretending to be calm. Wanda's face was as red as a fruit, as if she had absorbed enough vitality, and she walked down from the sofa full of energy. Unpacking the cheesecake on the table in the main hall, Wanda cut it open with the provided disposable knife and fork, and soon returned to the sofa with a plate of cheesecake. Master, please taste it first. As if she had entered the professional state of a maid, Wanda, who was wearing a red dress, said softly, and handed the cake with a fork forward in a regulated manner. You should eat it quickly. Xinian quickly took the cake. He was worried that if he didn't take it, Wanda might feed him. Eating cheesecake. While watching TV, Xinian said to Wanda, it's okay for you to wear this skirt outside, but the white silk scarf on your head and neck, well, you'd better not wear it outside. Just a red dress is nothing, but once paired with a tamed white silk scarf. I suddenly want to get my scarf dirty. I put this on in front of the door after I got home. Wanda ate the cake in small bites, pulled the silk scarf around her neck to decorate it, and whispered with a blush, I didn't show it to anyone else. Quote. Xinian took a deep breath and put down the clean plate of cake. This makes me want to get dirty even more. Master. As if she suddenly saw something, Wanda quickly stepped forward and gently wiped the corners of Xinian's mouth. Looking at the white cheese stains on her white fingers, Wanda lowered her head and licked it gently like a kitten, and soon realized that her behavior was very irregular. A flash of panic flashed in her eyes, and she quickly apologized to Xinian. Okay, you go take a shower first, Xinian urged quickly. After Wanda entered the bathroom to take a bath, Xinian let out a long breath and felt that his heart couldn't bear it. He is so charming but so scary. I don't know what he will be like when he grows up. Fortunately at this time, at the door, there was the sound of opening the door again. Xinian raised his eyes once again flashed with a look of surprise. Her black hair was tied up intellectually and neatly, her eyelashes were thick and slender, and her facial features were well defined. A mature white-collar beauty wearing a white butt-covering uniform came in, took off the black high-heeled shoes on her white and petite feet on the carpet, and talked to Wanda just now black boots placed together. No matter how many times I watch it, my aunt will always be so elegant and beautiful, and her stunning style is completely different from that of Wanda. Auntie. Xinian stood up quickly and walked forward. What happened? Diana was a little curious and looked at Xinian with a fiery gaze. Xinian's breathing was rapid and he said nervously, I want to hand in the evening homework in advance. Diana's body couldn't help but tremble slightly, even though she was used to tutoring homework every night. But today was too sudden, and I was not mentally prepared for anything. Auntie, is that okay? However, in response to Xinian's earnest question, Diana opened her mouth, and in the end, she couldn't refuse and nodded lightly. Get permission. Xinian walked forward without a trace of hesitation, and embraced the graceful waist with both hands. When the owner of the body bowed his head slightly and opened the seductive lips lightly painted with makeup, Xinian was a little rough and anxious. He opened his mouth and closed his mouth. With the body of a demigod, it is natural to feel no pain, but the excitement is undoubtedly unprecedented. Diana's beautiful eyes showed a trace of helplessness and fascination, worried that Xinian would be hurt if she didn't get the medium, so she opened her inner teeth without any reservation, and there was no hard, sweet and soft opening. When Wanda came out of the shower room after taking a bath and saw the two people watching TV calmly on the sofa, she couldn't help but shout in surprise, Miss Diana, you are back. Well, just now. Diana smiled slightly and asked softly, how do you feel about going to Gotham to study today? Very good. Teacher AFU is really the best housekeeper in the world. I can learn a lot from him. Wanda responded quickly, and then fell next to Diana with a curious look. Xinian was lying on his back normally, but his hair turned into long silver hair again. It's okay, I'm just reflecting. Xinian in demigod mode seemed to know what Wanda was thinking, and waved his hand feebly. Tonight's homework was a bit over the top. Xinian, Diana, and Wanda were sitting on the sofa watching TV as if they were a family. If it weren't for what happened just now, the current scene would undoubtedly be very warm. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, just when the Xinian family was preparing to go to bed, the TV suddenly broadcast a strange news. This reporter is reporting for you in Crete. You can see that a few kilometers behind me, a fire is rising into the sky. This ancient relic with a history of thousands of years, the Amazon temple, has caught fire. The fire has been burning for a whole day. The government authorities and residents are shocked by this and don't know the specific cause of the fire. From the news video on the TV screen, we can see that a white ancient temple ruins building is burning with fire both outside and inside. The flames are like giant beacons burning up the night sky. Amazon temple. Xinian's mind moved, and he looked at Aunt Diana beside him. Diana's face was solemn, and she nodded to him without leaving a trace. After Wanda returned to her room and started to sleep, Xinian secretly came to Aunt Diana's room, entered the door, and found that Aunt Diana had changed into the hero costume of Wonder Woman. That's Paradise Island warning us that there is an invasion. Wonder Woman said quickly, I'll go to the Amazon temple now to see if there are any clues there. I'll go with you, Xinian said in a deep voice with ice silver eyes. Okay, Wonder Woman nodded in agreement. That night, Crete, Amazon temple. The local government mobilized countless people to put out the fire, and no one noticed that two figures fell from the sky into the ruins of the temple. Crete, on the coast. The white ancient temple has stood here since an unknown era. Because the exterior and interior of the building are well preserved, it is still a major civilization relic that many archaeologists are obsessed with studying. It was late at night. While local firefighters were extinguishing the fire around the ruins, two figures, one large and one small, walked naturally in the temple ruins. They were a black-haired woman wearing strange ancient battle clothes and weapons, and a silver-haired boy wearing an ordinary white long windbreaker. Sensing the traces of divine power remaining in the temple, Wonder Woman and Xinian soon came to an open-air fire room, which was still burning and spewing flames. It was obviously the source of the fire in the Amazon temple. As if sensing the arrival of the supreme existence of the gods, the flames in the temple fire room suddenly stopped and extinguished, revealing the most central item in the room. Xinian, in demigod mode, immediately walked into the room, lowered his body, and pulled out an arrow that was inserted diagonally into the floor. The arrowhead flashed with the chill of the starry sky at night. It seemed to be coated with a layer of dark gold. The arrow body had mysterious ancient Greek inscriptions, just like the materials and workmanship of the various artifacts on my aunt's body. Another artifact. When Xinian grabbed it in his hand, he could clearly feel a vigorous and hot divine power lurking and hiding. Wonder Woman looked at the arrow in his hand and whispered, "That is the arrow of Artemis, which can pass through the barrier of Paradise Island and reach the human world here. The Queen Mother shot it here from Paradise Island and lit the ancient beacon fire, which should be to give us an early warning for an invasion," Xinian whispered to himself, holding the divine arrow in his hand as a weapon. "Yes, as for who the enemy is, there is a high possibility that there will be information left here." Wonder Woman walked into the innermost part of the temple's fire room and suddenly placed her slender palm on the wall. At this moment, the divine power activated and triggered the mechanism, causing the solid and sealed stone wall on one side to sink inward, accompanied by countless broken stones and dust falling down, opening a tunnel that had not been opened for thousands of years. The tunnel was so deep underground, dark and silent, flowing with the breath of ancient times. "Let's go." Wonder Woman took out the lasso of truth with one hand and reached out to Xinian with the other hand. Xinian held the hand that was as cool as jade. Tap tap. Xinian and the others jumped into the tunnel, falling straight down 20 meters, and arrived at the underground space under the temple. Wonder Woman raised her left hand lightly, and the lasso of truth hovered like a firefly, providing dim lighting with its own golden light. Xinian touched the inner pocket of his windbreaker, took out his mobile phone from it, and chose to turn on the flashlight mode. The mobile phone immediately glowed with dazzling daylight, like a small flashlight, illuminating the white stone stairs that went down in front. Mobile phone, the eternal god. Times have changed, Aunt. Xinian winked proudly. Wonder Woman calmly retracted the lasso of truth, flicked her finger on the boy's smooth forehead, and Xinian shut up tactfully. Under the light provided by the mobile phone, Xinian and Wonder Woman went down the stone steps and finally arrived at a truly secret underground darkroom. Wonder Woman thought and said, "Please use your mobile phone to shine on the wall." Xinian did as he was told, and raised the mobile phone towards the huge darkroom, which immediately illuminated the huge mural with strange patterns and ancient Greek characters. Xinian opened his eyes wide, and although he couldn't understand the words, he recognized one of the patterns at a glance. Isn't it the metal box he saw on the stone altar in the main hall of the building where he lived on Paradise Island? However, there are 3 boxes on the mural, and they are a trinity connected together. Xinian continued to look to the side, and what came into view was a mural of a grand scene, like an ancient battle. Yes, an ancient battle with a giant space battleship. Wonder Woman looked at the ancient Greek text on it, and her delicate and beautiful face became more solemn. She began to explain. It records an ancient battle that took place a long, long time ago. The invading enemy is a dark and ancient cosmic force. They want to invade the Earth and conquer the world. The leader of the invading alien fleet is called Darkseid. Darkseid, Xinian pondered. Wonder Woman looked at the mural and said, "This name is cursed and feared everywhere in the universe." At that time, the Guardian of the Earth started a war with Darkseid. There were old gods, humans, Amazons, guardians from the stars, Atlantis and other forces participating in the war. And just when Darkseid started the war, he discovered a secret on Earth, which was a force hidden in the infinite space. What power? Xinian frowned, and suddenly remembered the cosmic cube and the mind scepter he had obtained. The power hidden in those 2 mysterious items was unfathomable. We can't know what the secret he discovered is. Wonder Woman shook her head and continued, but it is obvious that Darkseid is eager to master it, so he used the 3 mother boxes created by their Apocalypse civilization, that is, the living and indestructible product of Apocalypse technology. When the 3 mother boxes are combined in a trinity, the power it generates is enough to refine the entire planet, making the Earth completely a world controlled by Darkseid. He failed, Xin Yan said. After all, if the other party had achieved their goal, the current Earth would have long ceased to exist. Wonder Woman nodded. Yes, the ancient Earth Guardians united together to drive Darkseid and his fleet out of the Earth. As for the 3 mother boxes, in order to prevent it from calling Apocalypse again. One was controlled by the human forces at the time, and one was controlled by the Kingdom of Atlantis. You also know the whereabouts of the last mother box, which is hidden in the Paradise Island of our Amazon tribe. The situation is not optimistic. Xin Yan's eyes condensed slightly. The Paradise Island would light a beacon to issue an early warning. Obviously, that mother box had been obtained by the Apocalypse forces that had infiltrated the Earth. If the other party finds the remaining 2 mother boxes, the consequences will be disastrous. Aunt, what do you want to do next? Xin Yan looked at Wonder Woman on the side. Wonder Woman raised her heroic eyebrows. We can't delay any longer. I will go to the 2 people I mentioned before and ask them to join the Justice League tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. We must gather a strong enough team as soon as possible to prepare to deal with the infiltrating Apocalypse forces. Don't forget me, I can fight with you. Xin Yan took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Of course, you are the real trump card. If I need you at that time, I will not forget you. Wonder Woman smiled slightly and reached out to touch Xin Yan's black hair. However, Xin Yan did not notice that a strange and determined look flashed under her eyes at this time. Late at night, S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, top floor office. The cool and Black Widow stood straight in front of the desk, while S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Nick Fury sat on the office chair, his deep single eye falling on a report document on the desk. Is this the intelligence result you got from your investigation? Director Fury asked in a deep voice. Black Widow nodded quickly. Yes. Although many things happened in the middle of the school, this is the conclusion I came to through intelligence analysis and judgment. Thank you for your hard work, you should go back and rest first. Director Fury lowered his eyes, glanced at Black Widow's bandaged arm, waved his hand and said. Black Widow nodded, turned around and left the director's office. There was only one person left in the office. Director Fury opened the intelligence document submitted by Black Widow, which was clearly the personal information and personal photos of Xinian Prince. He flipped through it a few times and turned the intelligence document directly to the last page. In the last column of the personal intelligence file, it was written. After 5 days of in-depth investigation, personal analysis and judgment, the target of investigation, Xinian Prince, is an ordinary human being without any extraordinary abilities. Director Fury was silent for a moment, and finally sighed softly, sorted out all the intelligence information about Xinian, and put them all in a drawer of his desk. Director Fury did not notice that in the middle of the information files he had not read, in a picture of Xinian's inconspicuous daily life, there was an orange kitten. Walking out of the director's office, Black Widow exhaled inexplicably. Even she didn't know why she concealed the talent that seemed to increase the favorability of strangers for Xinian. Or, maybe this was also because of her favorability. So she wrote intelligence information that was good for Xinian. After all, that thing that increases favorability can't be considered a kind of extraordinary ability, right? At least, it can't work at all in actual combat. Black Widow convinced herself in her heart. It's impossible to let Xinian go out to socialize and solve the problem when facing a powerful enemy of the opposite gender. Let's have a date live. Black Widow shook her head and put aside her overly strange and funny idea. The next day, Sunday morning, Xinian woke up in Wanda's bed service. He yawned and rubbed his short hair that turned from silver to black. It's time for demigod mode. Xinian didn't sleep very late last night, and he had been thinking about how to deal with the apocalypse forces that had lurked in. Although the sky fell, there were naturally tall people to support it, but if there was my aunt among the tall people, how could he sit idly by? In the case of not being able to find Lorna. Now, the most stable and powerful abilities that can be obtained are my aunt's demigod body, the 3-in-1, and Gwen's spider mutant physique. Xinian muttered to himself. Among them, the strongest actual combat power is undoubtedly the 3-in-1. The physical strength is invincible. However, the 3-in-1 has a huge and obvious flaw, that is, the superposition of the evil nature of the symbiote and the beast nature of the devourer will obviously distort the humanity of Xinyan, the leader, and make him dark and evil. Right. A flash of inspiration suddenly flashed through Xinyan's mind. What if one of the 3-in-1 is switched to Aunt Diana? That is, after he obtains the abilities of Venom and Devourer, he parasitizes on his aunt with the ability of the symbiote. Use the divinity of the aunt to suppress the evil nature of the symbiote. This bold idea seems feasible, but Xinyan is not very clear. After the two completely opposite forces of the demigod and the symbiote are fused together, will they be weakened or strengthened, and what kind of attitude will they show in the end? Black Myth Mode. Xinyan's eyes became more determined. No matter what, if he faces the alien battle of apocalypse at that time, even if his aunt intends not to let him participate in the war, he will let Xiao Huang bite him, obtain the ability to transform into a 3-in-1, and then parasitize on his aunt for protection. When Xinyan thought of this, he was about to get off the bed, and a small orange-yellow animal shadow flashed through the door. Little Emperor, what's wrong? Xinyan lowered his head and looked curiously at the little emperor who rushed into his room and lay on the quilt covered by him. A trace of hesitation flashed across the eyes of the little emperor, and then it opened its small mouth like milk teeth and quickly bit Xinyan's hand. Question mark, question mark, question mark. The boy's handsome face was suddenly stagnant. Xinyan thought about it, but after all, it was a measure that was forced to be taken when the alien war occurred, but it didn't say that it would be used now. Also, Aunt Diana is not at home now. Before Xinyan could think more, the medium was reached, and the Lord of the Dependence was triggered. The two long-lost and familiar abilities of the symbiote and the devouring beast poured into his body. Xinyan froze all over, and his body immediately turned into a pool of black liquid and softened on his bed. This was an unimaginable path, and everything happened so suddenly. The little emperor looked at the sticky and moving black liquid nearby, held his breath, and then plunged in without hesitation. Gurgle. Xinyan subconsciously parasitized on the little emperor, and the orange fur on the kitten's surface quickly turned black. The muscles and bones were strengthened countless times by the dual symbionts at this moment. The body expanded and shrank, and finally fixed in the ultimate form of a black kitten. A pair of blue beast eyes that seemed to be burning and swaying like flames opened violently and ferociously. The 3-in-1 Xinyan unexpectedly landed online. Master, E.H. Wanda saw that Xinyan had not left the room for a long time, so she walked in again. The boy's figure seemed to be gone on the bed. And that's it. The window of the room that she had not opened just now opened a small gap, and the cold wind was whistling into the room. At the same time, on the roof, a black kitten lay on the water tower, its face twisted and struggling, and finally a trace of reason appeared in the beast's eyes. Fortunately, the symbiont venom was still in a dormant state, and the devourer had no intention of fighting for the body, so Xinyan still got the dominance of the body. However, human nature was still distorted and disturbed in an instant, and rationality fell to the edge of a very dangerous situation. It said to itself hoarsely, "Xiao Huang, I need an explanation, why do you do this?" Meow meow, save. Starro. Xiao Huang's anxious consciousness emerged in Xinyan's mind. Because of the 3-in-1, Xinyan instantly understood what Xiao Huang meant. Xiao Huang, as a devourer cub. It didn't even remember what its parents looked like. I only remember that I seem to have been looking for an alien creature called Starro. Xiao Huang has been looking for it on Earth, like a life goal. Even if many things are forgotten, only this memory is not lost. Originally, it had no clues and could only wander around. Later, even if it lived in Xinyan's house, it still did not give up looking for the whereabouts of the other party. Until today, it suddenly could vaguely sense Starro's location in space. You want me to save it? Xinyan understood the reason for everything. Xiao Huang knew that he could not save Starro from humans by himself, so he wanted to borrow Xinyan's power. Since humans and Yuanxi beasts cannot communicate, they can only promote the current 3-in-1 state. New York, Stark Industries headquarters. It has only been more than a week since the New York War, and many streets are still undergoing repairs, but the Stark building has already completed its post-war repairs and is completely new in the center of the city. At this time, The top floor of the Stark headquarters is not only the office of Tony Stark, the head of Stark Industries, Iron Man, but also his personal workbench. At this moment, the Playboy Stark is wearing a black t-shirt and casual trousers that are easy to move around. He is sitting on a chair and clicking and sliding on the three-dimensional virtual projection screen. His face with beauty stubble is solemnly and seriously debugging the parameters of a certain project. He is immersed in the ultra-black technology of machinery and intelligence, so much so that the mature woman in a white hip-wrapped suit uniform who walks out of the elevator behind him is completely unaware of this. Until the woman came to the side and put a cup of fragrant hot coffee on the table. "Boss, have something to drink first." "Thank you." Hearing the call from his personal secretary, Stark finally woke up from his dream and took a sip of the hot coffee. Tony. Pepper Virginia Pepper Potts looked at Stark's slightly haggard face and even changed the name on her mouth. She said softly with a hint of tenderness, "Since the war, you have been working for 7 or 8 days in a row. It's time to have a good rest." "I'm fine." Stark drank half a cup of coffee in one gulp, and his eyes returned to the virtual screen. He said with excitement and vitality, "Recently, with Dr. Banner here, our development progress in steel armor has been very smooth. Especially the anti-type armor. Now the construction of 2 series of models has been initially completed." Stark opened his hands excitedly. Okay. Pepper rolled his eyes at Stark, knowing that he was like this by nature. As the saying goes, sleeping models come and go, but the steel armor is always strong. But it is precisely because of this that he is Iron Man. "You, the hands-off boss, keep working on your armor. There are still a lot of things in the company that I need to deal with." Pepper sighed helplessly, stepped elegantly on her high heels, and walked to the elevator on the top floor. Just as the elevator door where Pepper was closed. In the lobby on the top floor, the voice of artificial intelligence Jarvis suddenly sounded, "Sir, our satellite detected the appearance of a suspected black flash." Stark was shocked when he heard the words, and quickly asked, "Where is it?" Jarvis immediately switched the three-dimensional virtual projection scene to a three-dimensional image of the world map. It can be clearly seen that in the hinterland of the Atlantic Ocean, in the vast sea near South America, a target marked as a black dot is moving. The moving speed of the black dot target, the satellite data feedback is 2 to 3 Mach. "Is it on the plane?" Stark asked doubtfully. "After all, no ship can reach this speed." Jarvis responded, "Obviously not. The other party should be acting alone." "Okay." Stark shrugged. Although this was very unreasonable, the existence of the black flash itself was unreasonable. He pondered for a moment and said, "Analyze and judge through the movement trajectory data. Where does it want to go?" "Okay, sir." Jarvis executed the command. Within 2 seconds, an arrow appeared on the virtual projection, quickly pointing to a sea area in front of the target black spot. "There is an island there. Kodamatis." Stark muttered the name of the island country and pondered. "I remember it was a small island country. What's so special about it?" "It actually attracted the attention of Black Flash. Artificial intelligence." Jarvis collected information through the internet and quickly obtained the intelligence Stark wanted to know. He turned it into refined language and responded, "Just last week, an armed rebellion occurred in Kodamatis. The Herrera family, who were originally in power, were all killed. The current person in power in the island country is General Silvio Luna. That's all." Stark frowned. He didn't think that the armed rebellion of an island country alone would attract the attention of that terrifying existence. Jarvis said, "Sir, there are still some intelligence messages that have been encrypted by the U.S. high-level officials. Do you want to crack it and obtain it?" "Crack it." Stark gave the order without hesitation. "About 3 seconds. Artificial intelligence." Jarvis, "It's the Starfish Project. There is a scientific research institution called Jotunheim in Kodamatis. For 30 years, it has been carrying out the Starfish Project to study alien species. This project is likely to bring great harm to the world. In addition, Amanda Waller, a senior U.S. government official, is now organizing a special team codenamed X Task Force, most of whom are serious criminals from Gotham City, to go to Kodamatis Island to eliminate all hidden dangers of the Starfish Project." After listening to the story of artificial intelligence Jarvis, Stark couldn't help shaking his head. Use a group of serious criminals to eliminate the potential crisis in the world. This really sounds like what the U.S. high-level officials would do. There is naturally no problem in using extraordinary beings to fight against extraordinary hidden dangers, but using criminals changes the nature. However, Stark doesn't care about these, and he doesn't bother to care about the practices of the U.S. high-level officials. His target is the black flash that he has encountered once. Looking at the black spot target getting closer and closer to the island country, Stark didn't think too much and quickly issued an order to Jarvis. Jarvis, call me the number 1 anti-series armor, anti-black flash model. Jarvis, sir, at present, that type of armor is only a data parameter and an experimental model, and there is no complete product that can be used for combat. Stark frowned slightly, and said in a deep voice without giving up, build it now, rush it, and prepare it for me as quickly as possible. Okay, sir. Atlantic Ocean. It was night here, and under the night, the sea was pitch black. The waves swept and rolled in the darkness, and the subtle night wind gently brushed the sea, which seemed very calm. At this time, a water arrow swept across the sea, like a black lightning, breaking the calm of the sea as soon as it appeared. The speed of the black lightning was extremely fast, and it easily broke the sound barrier. The air burst wherever it passed, and a clear storm condensed around it, raising a burst of exciting waves on both sides. With a whoosh, in the blink of an eye, it rushed to the sea 100 meters away. In the center of the black lightning, a pair of beast eyes like burning green flames swayed. It was like a 3-in-1, black kitten-like Sheenian. The 4 cat paws were like helicopter propellers, running fast with a trace of afterimages, allowing him to stay above the sea. It ran for countless miles like a perpetual motion machine. In front of Sheenian, a huge island finally appeared across the sea. It passed through the offshore without slowing down and arrived at the coast of the island. The 3-in-1 Sheenian's beast eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of bloodthirstiness, but the moment he stepped onto the coast of the island, he sensed the cold murderous aura on this land. The air on the island coast was filled with a strong smell of blood and gunpowder. In the state of Trinity, he stepped onto the beach in the form of a black kitten. Xinyan, who could see at night, glanced forward. It can be seen that a brutal battle had obviously just ended not long ago at the junction of the island's offshore beach and the rainforest. The ground was full of human limbs and wreckage, helicopters, turrets, and bullet shells scattered all over the ground, and there were flames and gunpowder in some places. Through the signs of a raging disaster, it can be imagined how tragic the battlefield was just now. However, there is no sound or sign of living people on the coast now. No one survived. Where is the starro you sensed? Xinyan spoke inexplicably hoarsely. Meow meow. Xinyan heard Xiao Huang's response in his mind. I can only vaguely sense that it is on this island. Perception. Is it through a similar ability to perceive space? This thought flashed through Xinyan's mind, but even Xiao Huang himself had no way of knowing. It is still in the cub stage, and its innate ability of the yuan-devouring beast may still need to be developed. Just as Xinyan was about to investigate further into the island, he paused, and his eyes suddenly fell on a place on the beach, where a non-human creature with the appearance of a human-shaped weasel was lying. The other party seemed to have choked on water and was wet all over. But the subtle heartbeat in the body showed that it was still alive. The night was getting darker. Inside the island, a team was walking through the primitive and dense rainforest. In addition to human members dressed in various armed styles, this team also had shark-shaped monsters standing and walking on 2 legs, and a young girl with a mouse on her shoulder. So hungry, I want to eat. The shark-shaped monster muttered to himself in human language, saliva flowing out of his mouth, and his hands patted his flat shark belly like a drum. Are you sure this guy won't eat us as rations? A male member of the team wearing a helmet and a red top cursed. Of course not. It's our friend. The young white girl blinked innocently and waved her arms at the shark monster beside her. I don't believe it. The man in red snorted coldly, holding his special long-barreled pistol tightly in his left hand. You were almost eaten by it just now, and maybe it has been digested now. There is no persuasiveness at all. Be quiet. The black man who was obviously the leader of the team was wearing a black uniform and said in a deep voice, there is no way. It has been said that it is the strongest combat force of our team. Without it, we can't enter Jotunheim. I don't want the bomb in my body to be detonated, and I will successfully complete the mission and return to the prison so that the team can continue to move forward. Yes, that's it. As the black man's words fell, a calm female voice sounded in the micro-communicators of each team member at the same time. Thousands of kilometers away from the current island country, in a high-level base somewhere in the mainland of the United States. In the lobby of the institution full of monitoring screens and host computers, a black woman in a professional skirt was staring at the screen coldly, remotely monitoring the task force composed of serious criminals from the Dream Prison. The black woman was Amanda Waller, a senior American staff member behind the scenes who controlled the X task force. As long as the serious criminals on the mission had any escape or deviation from the action, she would press the remote explosion device in the member's body without hesitation. "If you want to reduce the punishment, act well," Amanda Waller said in a deep voice to the communicator. "Got it." Among the members of the X task force, a young man who had been silent and had strange spots on his body responded weakly. However, without waiting for others to speak, the little eyes of the shark monster in the team suddenly lit up, grinning like a shark's bloody mouth, and quickly and violently pounced on a part of the jungle. At this time, the other members noticed it. At some point, a black kitten emerged from the bushes of the rainforest, squatting on a stone in a harmless and quiet manner, with a pair of glowing green eyes staring at them. "Looks cute." Facing a giant that is more than 10 times its size, the shark monster attacks violently. The black kitten suddenly smiled evilly, with a surging murderous aura rising from its body, and a small cat's front paw suddenly waved forward. The air exploded instantly. As if it was hit hard by a heavy truck, the shark monster still in the air was immediately slapped and flew out, and crashed into the rainforest behind with a roar. The 2-meter-tall and strong shark body flew straight back 10 meters away, and it knocked down several trees before it barely stopped its body. My God! Watching this thrilling scene of a reversal in an instant, an unprecedented cold air surged from the back, making the scalps of all the members on the field numb. The strongest fighting force just a moment ago. They are indeed criminals who have committed serious crimes. After a brief moment of shock, they simultaneously launched a counterattack the next moment. The black captain held a large caliber gun and pulled the trigger, firing accurately. The man in red also raised his wrist quickly and pulled the trigger of the long-barreled pistol. The young man with the light spot raised his palms and sprayed a dense and strange energy light spot forward. The young girl held a strange glowing technological instrument. She wanted to call the rats on the island to launch an attack, but soon she seemed to notice something. Her young and beautiful face turned pale in an instant, and she looked at the black kitten in front of her with great horror. Facing the densely interwoven bullets and light spots, a barrage of bullets covered her. The black kitten squatted motionless in place. The next moment, bullets and light spots fell fiercely on its small body. Under the unbelievable eyes of the members of the X task force, the physical bullets fell on the surface of the black kitten and immediately rebounded, or rubbed the surface of the cat's body and deviated from the bullet trajectory. The light energy that was enough to penetrate and melt the stone fell on the black kitten, but it was difficult to melt even a trace of its hair. No, the black kitten itself has no hair. Its assembly line-like body is wrapped in a layer of biological cortex with a dark background. Bullets and light spots can't break through the defense at all. Facing the baptism of the team's attack, the black kitten squatted on the ground motionless, and the blue beast's eyes became more violent and impatient. "You, stop attacking." The young girl hugged the trembling mouse and screamed in fear. At the same time, Amanda Waller's urgent command came from the communicator of each member: "Everyone, stop attacking immediately. If you stop, you may still be alive. If you continue to attack, you will definitely die." The 3 members had no choice but to stop their attacks, but they also knew that once they stopped, it meant that their lives would be controlled by the kitten at the moment. Why, it appeared there. In the hall of the U.S. high-level base, Amanda Waller also looked shocked and opened an intelligence file on the screen in front of her. The black kitten in the file picture is exactly the same as the mysterious existence that appeared at the scene. Code name: Black Flash. First appeared on December 23, 2011, Christmas Eve. New York City. Race: unknown. Currently known ability information: powerful force that can easily tear apart a muscle car, amazing speed exceeding the speed of sound, can transform or arm its own limbs, can manipulate tentacles to form a huge dungeon, can swallow objects far larger than its own size, can generate ultrasonic waves with its maximum roar, possesses extraordinary defense that can ignore energy beams and heavy artillery bombardments. Combat record. Unknown liquid creature is dead. Iron Man was almost killed. Danger index SSS+, 1 level higher than the Hulk. In the dark night, in the rainforest of the island. The Black Captain, the man in red, and the young man who had just launched a fierce attack, helplessly and fearfully put down their guns and weapons and raised their hands towards the seemingly harmless black kitten. This scene undoubtedly looked a bit funny and weird. The members of the team at the moment might not have thought that they were fearless in the past and dared to fight against the most experienced prison guards. They never thought that they would surrender to a black kitten a little bigger than a palm when they were fully equipped. The black kitten suddenly leapt lightly and landed on the shoulders of the young girl, looking at them with its animal eyes glowing with dark green pupils. Under its gaze, none of the team members dared to move, and they didn't dare to breathe. In the arms of the young girl, a black-haired mouse that had been trembling all the time finally couldn't help it. Its eyes turned white, its limbs lifted, and its small body was a little stiff and completely fainted. Rustle. In the bushes of the rainforest nearby, at the end of the huge plow mark. The shark monster, which fell to the ground in an upside-down position, struggled to get up. It covered its fat head and shook it vigorously for a few times, shaking off a lot of mud on its body, which was only covered with a pair of large shorts. There was a bloody cat claw mark on its face. The shark-shaped monster quickly looked at the black kitten, and its strong and somewhat broad limbs immediately rushed up. Hey, this is not good. Just when the other member's eyes twitched, thinking that the Shark King wanted to continue attacking. The Shark King suddenly slid on the ground and called to the black kitten in a flattering way, "Cat boss." Everyone on the field almost fainted. They were dumbfounded, looking at the cute and flattering Shark King, speechless. So you are such a shark. But it is true. There are not many beings that can make the Shark King lower his posture. It has thick skin and flesh, and large caliber bullets can only make it feel pain at close range, and it is difficult to break the shark skin layer. As a result, now, the black kitten's claw broke through the defense. In addition, sharks are also fish, and there is nothing they can do about being restrained by the most powerful cat in history. Looking at the team members who have completely given up the intention to fight, the mysterious existence of the black kitten, that is, the 3-in-1 Sheenian calmed down a little and restrained the violence and murderous intent surging in his heart. In order to find Starro, Sheenian needs to know the situation on this island. Obviously, it seems that not only his target is this island, but also some other forces want to intervene. Just now, Sheenian woke up the drowning humanoid weasel creature on the beach, and wanted to understand the situation. Who knows, the weasel can't speak human language, and hesitated. So, Sheenian slapped the weasel back into the sea, and sensed the movement of living people here, and rushed here to encounter this strange team. Sheenian said hoarsely and sharply, "Identity, purpose." Everyone on the field was completely stunned. The cat actually spoke. Although there was a shark in their team, it walked on 2 limbs after all, and it was really no different from humans except for its appearance. Thousands of miles away, at the U.S. high-level base. Amanda Waller was also stunned. Her hands quickly tapped the keyboard and added a line to the intelligence file on the computer. "Black Flash, with high intelligence, can talk to humans." "Waller, what should we do?" The black captain whispered to the micro-communicator. "Do what it wants. Tell it what it wants to know," Amanda Waller said in a deep voice. "Now, your task is to please it with all your strength. Its existence is more meaningful than the Starfish Project." Amanda Waller's words have not yet finished. On the field, the black kitten suddenly raised a cat's paw, and several slender black tentacles that were like liquid solidification stretched out at a high speed. The tentacles pierced the air, and almost at the same time, the micro-instruments on the people on the line burst. Looking at the surveillance and communication signals that had all been lost, Amanda Waller angrily slammed her hands on the table. A subordinate came forward and asked worriedly, "Sir, since the situation has gotten out of control, what should we do next? Cancel the mission, or remotely activate the detonator on the body of the serious criminal member?" "No need." Amanda Waller took a deep breath, forced herself to calm down, and looked at the intelligence file of the black kitten and said, "Black Flash, once appeared in downtown New York, hunting suspected alien creatures. Now maybe it is also coming for the Starfish Project. It is very likely to help us clear that project." In the rainforest. First, They got the approval of Amanda Waller, and the remote monitoring and communicator were destroyed. The black captain in the team had nothing to worry about. He immediately explained to Xinyan, who looked like a black kitten, "My name is Robert Dubois. We are all lifelong serious criminals from the Dream Prison. Due to the special call of Amanda Waller, a senior American official, we formed a suicidal desperate team, the euphemistic name of X Task Force." Quote, "There was no thought of fooling or concealing the black kitten with high intelligence. After all, disobeying Amanda Waller's orders at the moment may not necessarily lead to death, but disobeying the black kitten will definitely lead to death. Besides, they really have no loyalty to the so-called senior American personnel in this mission." Robert was very tactful and told Xinyan what he wanted to know, the identity of the group and the purpose of the trip. After a while, Xinyan had a general understanding of the situation of this team. This infiltration team encountered in the rainforest is called X Task Force. Their team now has 5 members, most of whom are special heavy criminals from Gotham City. The black captain, Robert Dubois, codenamed Bloodsport. He is a former professional killer who has been trained since childhood and is good at using various weapons. He is basically a 100% accurate shooter. He once used kryptonite bullets to send Superman to the intensive care unit. Christopher Smith, the man in red, codenamed Peace Messenger. A former professional killer who can use various modern weapons, is good at close combat, and is an enthusiastic patriot. Cleo Cazo, a young girl, codenamed Second Generation Mousetaker. He can use special instruments to communicate with mice and was arrested for manipulating mice to rob banks. Abner Carell, a young man with a light spot, codenamed Polka Dot Man. Due to the failure of the experiment, he was infected with a high-dimensional virus and was able to use the dots in his body to kill people. The 4 of them are obviously not normal people, and they are more or less involved in the extraordinary, or half a step into the extraordinary. Among them, the non-human shark monster Nanase is suspected to be the descendant of the ancient Shark King. Xinyan's eyes fell on the Shark King, and he didn't know whether this so-called Shark King was related to the Atlantis that Ant had said sank to the bottom of the sea. However, he was able to withstand the 3-in-1, and he slapped it with some strength. He didn't die, and his strength was already very good. There is also, the target of this X task force is the secret research institute of this island country Jotunheim, in order to eliminate the starfish project that is going on there. Xinyan instinctively feels that this starfish project is likely to be related to Starro that Xiao Huang is looking for. In the rainforest, after telling the origin and purpose of the team, all the members of Task Force X stared at the black kitten with lingering fear, as if waiting for the god of death to make the final judgment. Kill them or let them go. If it's the former, even if they resist desperately, their team will be completely destroyed here. In a state of silent fear, Xinyan, who had the shape of a 3-in-1 black kitten, suddenly jumped on top of Shark King Nanase's head and lay down on it as a spacious and flat sofa, with the black cat tail behind him swaying slightly. The black kitten said coldly, "Keep going." Well, it looks like he wants to participate. Then aren't they invincible? Task Force X was stunned for a moment, then looked at each other. They should be said to be serious criminals with extremely strong adaptability. They all nodded immediately, picked up their weapons, and continued deeper into the rainforest. No matter what, they did not lose their lives at the hands of the terrifying existence in the shape of a kitten, and the mission could continue. This should be the best result for their team at the moment. Only, the existence that controls the lives of everyone in Task Force. When the black kitten lay on top of his head, Shark King Nanase not only did not resist, but was as happy as a child. Even his steps became cautious, as if he was afraid of bumping the kitten above his head. Just now, why didn't you summon a mouse to attack? Captain Robert, walking at the front of the team, looked curiously at the young girl aside and asked. I originally wanted to summon the rats, but suddenly I noticed something. The second-generation mouse catcher looked down at the unconscious rat companion in his arms and said with a bitter smile, at that moment when the cat, well, the boss cat appeared, all the rats in the surrounding rainforest retreated 5 kilometers away. She paused and said fearfully, they are instinctively afraid and jealous. Let alone attack, they can't even get close to here. Captain Robert glanced at the black kitten not far behind him and sighed from the bottom of his heart. although I hate mice very much, it turns out that their instincts are correct. Faced with such an unreasonable existence, no matter how many rats come, there won't be enough to bury it. Xinian calmly lay on the head of the Shark King in the team. When he didn't know the specific situation of this island country, he just used this special team to explore the reality. It's also because once you engage in too much fighting and killing, your rationality will soon break out of control. Only, this team seems to be moving too slowly. Of course, there is nothing we can do about it. Although there are extraordinary beings in the team, most of them have ordinary people's physiques. Without transportation, they can only go deep on foot. According to the plan mentioned by Task Force X just now, it is to go deep into the island rainforest to find the local Free Army, and then go to the capital city of the island country, find the person in charge of the research laboratory and sneak into Jotunheim. Will it take at least 2 or 3 days? Xinian's beast eyes flickered with a faint green light, impatient, extremely impatient with its current temperament. There is still class tomorrow. If you go back late, the hostess and maid at home will also be worried. Is there no means of transportation? Xinian was just thinking of this when a buzzing sound came from the night sky not far away. Hidden, Captain Robert subconsciously waved his hand and led the members of Task Force X to hide in the bushes. Everyone looked up and could see a military-style armed helicopter, its propeller blades roaring and spinning, flying over the nearby rainforest. It was visually estimated that it was about 1,200 meters away from them. It is the rebel army that currently controls this island country. Unfortunately, the distance between the two is too far. At a distance of more than 1,000 meters, even if he is a sharpshooter, he cannot cause any danger to the military helicopter without a sniper rifle. Don't expose it, wait until it leaves. Captain Robert just finished speaking. Rear, the black kitten, which was originally lying calmly on the head of Shark King Nanase, suddenly raised its black tail and twitched forward. The cat's tail was like a missile, instantly breaking the sound barrier and heading towards the military helicopter 1,000 meters away. Eject past. No way. Under the unbelievable gazes of Task Force X, the black tail extended to 1,000 meters away in an instant, like a tentacle touching the bottom of a military helicopter. The dark tentacles suddenly tightened. Without the black kitten's effort, the military helicopter first stagnated in the night sky for half a second, and then was quickly and violently pulled this way. Do it. Run. The minds of everyone in Task Force. The 3-in-1 Xinian stretched out a pair of cat claws and waved to the side, and the strong wind raged. Suddenly, 2 huge and sharp dark scythes cut through the trees within 10 meters, so that the rainforest area became open and clear. Buzz. Under the strong pull of the dark tentacles formed by the tail, the military helicopter fell sharply to the location of Xinian. The high-speed rotating spiral leaves immediately flattened many branches and leaves of the rainforest. Seeing that the military helicopter was about to crash to the ground completely. Laugh. 2 more dark tentacles shot out from Xinian's back, and quickly supported the bottom of the helicopter, forming support with the tail tentacles at 3 different positions, stabilizing the military helicopter weighing more than 10 tons. The black kitten, which was only slightly bigger than a palm, lifted a military armed helicopter that was 100 times heavier in both volume and weight. This scene that subverted common sense and shocked the eyes was destined to be unforgettable for everyone on the field. Pa-ta! The black kitten dropped the military helicopter on the open space in front of it like a toy, and the surrounding ground trembled slightly. The door of the military helicopter slowly opened. The rebel soldiers in the cabin had astonishment and confusion on their faces, not knowing what had happened. Before they could understand the current situation, they saw several people holding guns and knives and axes in the rainforest outside the helicopter door, rushing in like desperate people. Bang bang bang, puff puff puff. The sound of gunfire and the sound of blades cutting into the human body rose and fell. Ah, don't come over here. The military helicopter cabin was instantly reduced to a bloody battlefield, with countless rebel soldiers wailing and screaming. The members of Task Force X, who were previously unable to fight under Xinian's hands, suddenly became extremely ferocious and fierce when facing the ordinary armed soldiers at the moment. Especially Captain Robert and the peace messenger, killing people is as common as drinking water and eating. In less than half a minute. With that, the broken bodies of soldiers were thrown out of the helicopter cabin, and the blood dyed the surrounding grass red. Soon the rainforest area here returned to silence again. Hey, there is still a living person here. Captain Robert went deep into the helicopter cabin and looked down at the human being in a large sack in the corner of the floor. Looking at the slightly graceful figure, it seems to be a woman. Chapter 91. Under the dark night, a silent rain forest is restored. Task Force X, or Captain Robert and Peacemaker alone, easily eliminated more than a dozen rebel soldiers in the military helicopter. Shark King Nanaue wiped the corners of his raised mouth without leaving a trace, resisted the temptation of the corpses of rebel soldiers on the ground, and stood still in place as if it were a real shark chair. Cat, boss, there is still one alive here. Captain Robert walked down from the cabin of the military helicopter carrying a large sack with a person inside, and said to the black kitten above Nanaue's head. Gululu. At this time, the woman in the sack twisted her graceful body violently, struggled from Captain Robert's shoulders and fell to the ground. Several members of Task Force X immediately surrounded her from different directions, accompanied by the opening of the sack. From the young and green eyes of the 3-in-1 black kitten, a girl with twin ponytails with hair dyed in various colors is reflected. The fair and delicate face of the girl with twin ponytails is covered with heavy clown makeup. She wears a black machine necklace on her slender neck like a pet. She wears a vest jacket that reveals her navel and small waist. Her lower body only has a raised buttocks. Wearing a pair of red ultra-short hot pants, the white and tender flesh of her legs were tightly wrapped by black mesh stockings, and under her feet were a pair of leather boots with high tops and high heels. It's like a non-mainstream dress among the non-mainstream. What is even more eye-catching is that on the exposed arms, inner thighs, and even under the belly button of the girl with twin ponytails, there are black tattoos such as English, playing cards, or hearts, making her look extremely crazy and lustful. The girl with twin tails emerged from the sack, slapped her cheek in confusion, and scanned the people around her. Harley Quinn, why are you here? Captain Robert, Peacemaker and others in Task Force X were surprised and immediately recognized the girl's identity. After all, this seemingly soft and non-mainstream girl is actually a very high-profile criminal in Gotham City and even Dream Prison. Harley Quinn, codenamed Harley Quinn. Ah, I have met a living acquaintance. Harley Quinn suddenly stood up from the ground, greeted everyone familiarly, then spread her hands with a sigh and said, I am in another X special except for me, everyone else in the dispatch team died tragically. Even though she said that, she couldn't tell whether she was really sad or not. Certainly, being able to use the codename, Harley Quinn, has her own capricious and unpredictable character traits. By the way, how did you get this big guy down from the sky? Masturbating. Which one of you is so good at coming? Harley blinked and looked at the military helicopter on the ground in the rainforest. Well, everyone in Task Force X didn't know what to say, so they could only focus on one place. Is it this big guy who looks like a shark? I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Harley was filled with admiration. She came to the Shark King and punched Nanaue's rock-hard abdominal muscles with her fist. Cat, your team actually brings cats with them during their operations. Harley suddenly saw the black shadow on King Shark's head, and her eyes suddenly lit up. She couldn't help but jump up and take the black kitten down, press it into her chest and rub it against the girl's face. Harry, you're mistaken. Seeing this scene, the other members gasped. But soon, they discovered that the cat boss didn't look angry. Sheenian looked at the clown makeup of the girl nearby, and felt a sense of strangeness and dissonance in his heart. In fact, his first impression and feelings about Harley Quinn were not very good. Even if the other party is just a girl in her early 20s, he would definitely not be willing to interact with such a sick and even mentally ill felon. However, now Sheenian is not in the state of an ordinary person, but in the 3-in-1 model. Then sick, extreme, evil. No one on the field can compare to Sheenian, who has the combined temperament of the Venom symbiote and the devouring beast. Now he is just using the little humanity and reason left in him to hang on like a tightrope to prevent himself from falling into the boundless darkness, abyss. So, Harley Quinn, who is morbid and crazy, is just in line with the taste of the current 3-in-1 Sheenian in terms of compatibility. Of course, this so-called taste is not from the perspective of mating. Instead, pets. That's right, for the current 3-in-1 Sheenian, Harley Quinn is a better pet than Shark King Nanaue. I really want to lock her in a dark, deserted underground room, lock her in a low iron cage where she cannot stand upright, tie her neck and ankles with iron chains made of fine steel, and remove all her clothes and jewelry. Remove it, pour warm white milk over her body, and let her lick her body and eat over and over again, etc. The black kitten's face became ferociously distorted. His humanity was almost pushed past the bottom line, causing him to fall into boundless darkness and evil. Ah! Harley Quinn didn't know what Sheenian was thinking, so she rubbed the black kitten against her body hard. Sheenian's eyesight went dark, and his body was submerged in a soft and dark place. All the members of Task Force. Obviously I came first. Shark King Nanaue was a little angry about this, and looked at Harley Quinn with an angry and dissatisfied look in his small eyes. Okay, now that we have obtained the opponent's military helicopter, we can go directly to the capital city. Captain Robert coughed lightly and understood why the cat boss Sheenian didn't destroy the helicopter directly. Can you fly a helicopter? The second-generation ratcatcher asked with some confusion. I've driven it a few times. Captain Robert patted his chest confidently. In the early morning, the genius was dimly lit up like a fish belly. The capital city of the island nation of Kodomatis, the leader's residence occupied by the rebels. The open-air terrace on the top floor of the mansion is very open and can be used as a landing platform for helicopters. Even during the day, there are many rebel soldiers stationed here. At this time, as a buzzing sound sounded from the distant sky, a local military helicopter flew in from far and near. Their back. Immediately, a rebel soldier stepped forward, picked up a small flag, and waved it on the open-air platform of the mansion, trying to direct the military helicopter to land. But the military helicopter approaching within 100 meters not only did not slow down, but suddenly crashed into it crookedly. Above the mansion, watching the military helicopter falling straight to the open-air terrace of the mansion, the rebel soldiers on duty were stunned for a second or two, and then scattered in panic. As for the military helicopter that fell crookedly, there were faint roars and curses from both men and women in the cabin. Didn't you say you had flown it a few times? Yes, I have flown it a few times, in the simulator. Quote. There was an obvious silence in the cabin. Hurry up and jump out of the plane. Someone said helplessly, and before the military helicopter fell obliquely on the rooftop, 5 or 6 people jumped down from both sides of the cabin. 2 of them were white girls dressed strangely, one holding an unconscious black-haired mouse, and the other holding a black kitten on her chest. A shark monster behind them jumped down immediately after the 2 of them, holding their backs in the air with their broad blue and white palms. The military helicopter continued to accelerate and fell from the sky, crashing obliquely onto the rooftop of the mansion. The high-speed rotating propeller swept across the roof of the mansion, immediately shredding the bodies of several soldiers who had not had time to escape, and setting off a bloody storm. Crack, crack, crack. Accompanied by a burst of sparks caused by the collision between the metal fuselage and the floor, the military helicopter slid on the wide open-air platform, and crashed into the building next to it with strong inertia, roaring and exploding into a large ball of bright red fire. Boom! The huge flames and air waves generated by the explosion swept outward, not to mention the officers and soldiers in the mansion, but also the city residents several kilometers away could see it. Captain Robert made a tactical roll and landed on a charred and messy rooftop, looking at the figures of soldiers constantly emerging from the mansion building below. He said helplessly, "This time, it's really completely exposed. Originally wanted to sneak into the jungle step by step, blend into the city, and then find the staff to enter the institute. As a result, thanks to the black kitten, they arrived at the end of the mission directly from the starting point. The journey time that originally took 2 or 3 days was now shortened to 1 or 2 hours. The peace envoy who landed next to him looked down at the many soldiers below, took out an axe with his backhand, and said coldly, "Why bother so much, just kill them all." "That's true." Captain Robert shrugged indifferently and raised his black large-caliber gun with both hands. On the other side, Shark King Nanavi landed in the courtyard on the first floor of the mansion first, stepping on the grass until it sank a little. It kept lifting and pushing with both hands, so that the second-generation mouse catcher Cleo Cazo and Harley Quinn could fall to the ground safely from a high altitude. As for the black kitten on Harley's chest, not to mention that it would not be injured if it fell directly from a high altitude, now it has a dedicated cushion and protective cover. The 3-in-1 Xinyan continued to stay on Harley, only a small head poked out from the bodice of the jacket. At this time, with a snap, the young man, Abner Coral, who was covered with spots of light, also known as the polka dot man, fell straight from the sky into the fountain next to the grass, splashing water, and then his face was facing down and floating in the water. Well, he fell to death. Can we eat it like this? Shark King Nanaue looked at the corpse of the polka dot man in the pool and scratched his head cutely. He is poisonous, so don't eat him. It will affect your IQ. Cleo Kazo, the second-generation mouse catcher, patted Nanaue on the shoulder and comforted him. Da da da. The gunshots came from the rooftops and various parts of the mansion. It was obvious that the rebels had already fought with Captain Robert and others. There are intruders on the roof. There are also in the yard. Below the courtyard of the mansion, several rebel soldiers immediately exclaimed and rushed towards the members of Task Force X where Xinyan was with guns in hand. Food. Shark King Nanaue's eyes suddenly became hot, and he rushed directly towards the rebel soldiers. Several bullets almost simultaneously landed on his 2-meter-tall shark body, but they could not break through the shark's blue-white skin defense, and could only slow down its forward speed slightly. Bang! Shark King Nanaue opened his hands to both sides, and his body was like a small heavy armor tank in the shape of a shark. He rushed to the front of the terrified soldiers with guns, hugged their bodies and forcibly broke through the wall behind them, and crashed into the interior of the mansion building with blood. Seeing this, Cleo Kazo, the second-generation mouse catcher, said to the Harley Quinn beside him, "I can't get too close to you, otherwise, I can't use my own abilities." Whatever. Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn, smiled indifferently, took a few steps forward, and her bulging chest shook the kitten together, and picked up a gun that fell on the ground. "Then I will be on the same team with the kitten." I wish you good luck. The second-generation mouse catcher hesitated, glanced at the kitten on Harley's chest, and hurriedly left with the still sleeping mouse. Harley took Xinyan, who looked like a black kitten, and climbed in through the window without hesitation. The hall on the first floor of the mansion was covered with blood and bullet holes, but there were no bodies of rebel soldiers. It was obvious that they were almost dealt with by King Shark. Harley held a gun, not only did not show the slightest fear, but happily rushed up to the second floor of the mansion along the spiral staircase. As soon as she arrived at the intersection of the second floor, she met a team of rebel soldiers. The rebel soldiers were stunned for a moment when they saw the clown and Harley, who was dressed in a non-mainstream style. The next moment, their bodies were shot into sieves by the steel torrent. Blood splattered and flesh flew. Faster, more ruthless, and crazier than others. Harley Quinn raised her mouth with joy, enjoying the pleasure of killing, and her body was full of extreme beauty and violence. High-heeled boots stepped on the bloody corpses and walked through the corridor. The main hall of the mansion on the second floor. Harley entered here and found that there was only one person left in the main hall. He was a tall man in a military uniform with honor badges. General Silvio Luna, the new leader of the island country, the real power controller of the rebel army. Silvio was originally holding a large-caliber pistol inlaid with gold. When he saw that it was Harley Quinn who walked into the second-floor hall, he immediately put down the large-caliber pistol and said excitedly, "Harley Quinn, I have admired you for a long time." "Really?" Harley blinked. "Of course, look." Silvio seemed to have forgotten his current situation, pointing to a red dress hanging on a hanger in the hall. "This is what I prepared for you. I didn't expect to meet here." Bang! Gunshots rang out. A clear bullet hole appeared on Silvio's forehead. He stared at Harley, the clown girl holding a gun, and his body immediately fell backwards without life. "Admirer, right. Anyway, you will definitely die here today, so why not die in my hands earlier?" Harley smiled as a matter of course, threw away the empty gun in her hand, and replaced it with the large-caliber pistol inlaid with gold. "But this dress looks really good." Harley looked at the red long dress hanging on the wall, her eyes sparkling, and immediately walked forward, put the large-caliber pistol aside, and reached out to take off her dirty top. A slight sound of zipper opening was heard, and the clothes fell silkily along her straight legs. Xinyan, who looked like a black kitten, jumped down from the chest and landed on the table nearby. His eyes, glowing with a faint green light, looked at the front quietly. As his jacket, short shorts, fishnet stockings, etc. fell to the ground, a graceful and body of Harley Quinn was revealed. No avoidance. Xin Yan, who was 3-in-1, just looked at him with appreciation, as if he was looking at a slightly better-looking human pet. Leader's residence, main hall on the second floor. In the scene where the rebel leader General Silvio was still lying on the smooth floor with his eyes wide open. Xinian, who looked like a 3-in-1 black kitten, squatted quietly on the table beside him, suppressing the violence and evil in his heart, watching the snow-white body with tattoos being lightly covered by a bright red dress. He almost couldn't help but use his tentacles to hang her up and kill her. Perhaps he was infected and tempted by the negative atmosphere of killing around him. Xinian felt that although he didn't do too much, his inner spirit and thinking became more and more abnormal. He must find Starro, who the little emperor is looking for, as soon as possible and leave here. Xinian's eyes fell on Harley again unconsciously. Wait, that new red dress looks a little too clean. This won't do. Seeing Harley Quinn change her clothes, the black kitten suddenly jumped forward, and a pair of cat claws with black mucus fell on the girl's chest like stepping on milk. Xinyan left clearly visible cat paw marks on Harley's flawless white neck and the firm and soft part of her red dress, as if branding his own mark. The black cat paw marks stained the girl's white body and the brand new red dress, exuding a hint of evil. This looks much better. A pet should look like a pet. Xinyan, the 3-in-1 with infinitely magnified darkness in his heart, thought. Harley thought that the black mark was just mud, and laughed without disdain, and hugged the black kitten back into his arms. At this time, the gunshots and fighting noises on the roof and downstairs of the mansion building, and even in the yard, all fell silent. Harley picked up the large caliber pistol inlaid with gold, and walked downstairs with the black kitten. Soon, in the yard of the mansion where corpses were lying, she met Captain Robert, the peace envoy, who was wearing one black and one red. Chew, chew. The Shark King had white bullet marks all over his body. He patted his slightly bulging blue-white belly and walked out, joining the 3 people outside. Where are the other 2? Captain Robert asked in confusion, looking at the quiet mansion. One of them is there. He died when he jumped from the helicopter. Harley pointed to the young man with half of his body floating out of the fountain pool. Okay. Captain Robert was speechless for a moment. This was still his fault. Although the polka dot man was a deformed human involved in the extraordinary field among the members of their X-task force. Unfortunately, due to being infected by the high-dimensional virus, his physical constitution was weaker than that of ordinary people. Even if he didn't jump to death from the helicopter now, he would probably die inadvertently. Wait, where is Cleo Cazo? Compared with the polka dot man, who he didn't like much, Captain Robert was more worried about the second-generation mouse catcher like his daughter. Here, without waiting for Harley's response. Outside the gate of the mansion, the words rang. The second-generation mousetrap Cleo Cazo came in holding a bald scientist hostage. She held the collar of the other person's dark shirt tightly with her left hand, and the pistol in her right hand was against the bald forehead full of instrument tubes. There was also a black-haired mouse on the bald scientist's neck, threatening. He was trying to escape from the mansion, but I caught him. The second-generation mousetrap said. However, when the second-generation mousetrap approached the gate, approaching Harley with a black kitten. The black-haired mouse suddenly had straight eyes, stiffened its body, and fainted again with its limbs raised, and its small body fell from the scientist's neck. Everyone. The second-generation mousetrap quickly protected the mouse in her hand again, and the bald scientist was taken over by Captain Robert. You are Gaius Graves, the thinker, right? The research director of the Starfish Project. Captain Robert held a gun and stared at the bald scientist coldly. The thinker said angrily, you killed General Silvio. His left and right arms, now General Matiosu, will never let you go. We don't care, and we have no choice. Captain Robert glanced at the black kitten on Harley, patted the thinker's face, and said, I want you to take us into Jotunheim. Jotunheim. The thinker opened his eyes wide, and when he heard the name, a trace of fear and fanaticism flashed across his face. In Kodomatis, a huge chimney-shaped research institute factory in the capital city. This is Jotunheim, the biggest secret of this island country for many years, the location of the Starfish Project, and the only target of the X-Force's cleanup mission this time. There are large iron gates and electric grids outside the institute, and more than a dozen fully armed rebel soldiers are on guard. Bang! An unexpected incident occurred, and a modified van suddenly forced its way in through the closed iron gate. Bang bang bang. The doors on both sides of the van opened at the same time, and the members of Task Force X in the van opened fire, instantly shooting more than a dozen soldiers into pulp. Open the door. Captain Robert forcibly pulled the thinker out of the car and smashed his face on the face scanner at the main entrance of the institute. The main entrance of the institute opened. The rest of Task Force X immediately filed in. There were researchers from Jotunheim inside, and the laboratory director had become a hostage, and they all made way in fear. Direct access to the top floor of the Jotunheim Research Institute. As soon as they entered the most confidential laboratory, all the members of Task Force X were stunned, and a creepy feeling spread throughout their bodies. I saw two men locked on the instrument as experimental subjects on one side of the wall of the Jotunheim laboratory. They were struggling like drowning people, and there was a strange starfish on their faces, covering their eyes, mouths and noses. At this time, Xin Yan, who had been staying on Harley like an ordinary black kitten, jumped to the ground, looking at the starfish on the experimental subject with a pair of dark blue animal eyes. With the help of Task Force X and others, they successfully came to Jotunheim. It should be said that everything went very smoothly. Is this the Starro you were looking for? Xin Yan conveyed his thoughts to the devourer cub in his mind. Xiao Huang. Meow meow. What do you mean? Xin Yan didn't quite understand, and the devourer cub Xiao Huang replied. No, but it can be considered as such. No, it means that these starfish attached to the experimental subjects are not Starro. As for it, it should mean. The 3-in-1 Xin Yan was thinking about this. At this moment, deep in the laboratory, a wall with mostly transparent protective glass. In the inner space on the other side of the wall, a huge suction cup tentacle hit the protective glass window from the inside, causing the entire institute to tremble slightly. What is that thing? Even the X-Force members who have seen countless darkness and blood, can't help but open their eyes wide with fear. After the huge suction cup tentacle slid down, through the glass window, you can see that there is a giant starfish monster imprisoned inside, which is almost 2/3 the size of the entire 30-meter-high institute. New York, Stark Industries headquarters building. Sir, the anti-black flash armor is ready. The gentle and concise voice of artificial intelligence Jarvis sounded in the main hall on the top floor. Arrange it and get ready to go. Tony Stark's eyes flashed, and he couldn't help but clenched his hands into fists. Last time, facing the unknown creature in the shape of a black kitten, Black Flash, Mark's steel suit was almost helpless. He was also exiled to an unknown and mysterious space, and experienced an unprecedented horror experience. Tony Stark is very worried about this. When he wakes up at night, he feels like a black cat is barking. Therefore, in the past week, when I was programming all night to rush to produce the Anti-Armor series, Anti-Black Flash was even higher than Hulkbuster, ranking first in the Anti-Series Steel Armor. Anti-Armor is not an upgraded version of conventional Mark armor, but a strategic armor tailor-made for a specific powerful extraordinary being, with the premise of competing and defeating the opponent. This time, I must let you see how powerful I am. I will capture you and see what kind of creature you are. Tony Stark murmured to himself, with a look of confidence on his face. At this time, Jarvis asked very thoughtfully, Sir, would you like to go through the process and record a personal video? Or, Miss Pepper is downstairs, you can contact her to come up. Jarvis. Tony Stark's smile disappeared and he raised his brows and said, I don't like this joke. Okay. Seeing the giant and strange starfish monster imprisoned in the Research Institute, the members of Task Force X were stunned. Look how beautiful it is. The thinker looked enthusiastically at the huge starfish inside the glass window, and said with excitement, I have been studying it for more than 20 years. Its name is Starro, it is an alien species, and it can derive split bodies, control and eat up the energy in human beings to strengthen themselves. While the thinker was talking, Starro, the super-large starfish imprisoned inside the institute, looked at him angrily with the same huge one-eyed eye in the middle, and slapped a suction cup tentacle heavily on the glass window. More than 20 years, Xinian captured a strongly contradictory message. The little emperor is just a cub of the element-devouring beast, and this Starro has been imprisoned in Jotunheim since 20 years ago. In this case, how did Xiao Huang know Starro, and why did he want to find it? Little Wangben Miao couldn't explain what Xinian felt strange at the moment. Perhaps, only through Starro can we understand the secret behind it. Why do you want to carry out the inhumane starfish project? Do you want to use its power to harm the world? The second-generation rat catcher couldn't help but ask. Ha 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 ha. The thinker suddenly laughed crazily and sneered. 22 years ago, senior officials of the US government captured this alien species in outer space and moved it to the island country here. They built a specially built island called the Yotun Sea. Tom's Research Institute. Many people suddenly looked surprised when they heard these words. The thinker continued to say firmly, yes. The US government that is sending you to clean up the starfish project is the force behind the original entrustment to me to conduct human experiments, alien research, and launch experimental plans for this alien species. However, due to the changes in government over the years, they just want to get rid of the current situation and don't want to admit their original criminal activities. Hearing the thinker talk about the bad side of the United States, the peace envoy in Task Force X became anxious. You fart. Don't believe him, he is a lunatic. Don't believe it. The thinker chuckled and pointed to a computer host in the laboratory. You can take away the wafer that has copied the archived data. It contains all the evidence of the US's participation in the plan over the years. That, perhaps, is also that's what the top US officials really want you to clean up. Harley Quinn, who was worried that the world would be in chaos, immediately stepped forward and took the crystal element of the host computer in her hand. Give it to me. The peacemaker suddenly took a step forward and stretched out his hand toward Harley domineeringly. Don't you believe it? Why do you care so much about it now? Harley chuckled. Whether it is true or not, for the sake of world peace, I will bury it here. The peace messenger said coldly with a firm stance. Everyone calm down first. Captain Robert and the second-generation ratcatcher wanted to persuade the two of them. However, no one in the laboratory noticed it. At this time, the black kitten had arrived at the edge of the glass window wall. Separated by extremely thick protective glass, the 3-in-1 Xinian stared quietly at the super-large starfish monster the size of a building inside. Really, you want to come out, right? The black kitten smiled ferociously and suddenly slowly raised a cat paw. What does that cat want to do? The thinker was the first to notice this scene. He looked at the black kitten and murmured in confusion. After hearing his words, the members of Task Force X noticed. Except for Harley, who didn't know the inside story, all the other members, including Captain Robert, had their brains wiped out. As if confirming what they thought, Xinian, who looked like a 3-in-1 black kitten, suddenly waved his small cat paw and landed on the protective glass window in front of him. Then come out. Bang. Only one paw. The specially made thickened glass window that even sniper bullets could not penetrate, with the small black cat claw as the center, burst out dozens of cracks that spread to the entire glass wall. Hey, no way. How is this possible? The thinker looked shocked as he watched this extraordinary scene that refreshed his cognition. Then, boundless fear surged into his heart like a tide. The alien monster, Starro, who had been imprisoned for more than 20 years, was about to reappear in this world. New York, SHIELD Headquarters Building. Inside the top-floor office, SHIELD Director Nick Fury was tidying up the documents in the drawer. Recently, he has been dealing with the complicated issues following the Battle of New York. As if he noticed something, Nick Fury's expression suddenly moved, and he took a photo out of the drawer. When his deep single eye fell on the photo, his serious face became softer. It was a group photo. In the photo, there is a tall black youth who looks like him, with healthy eyes, and next to him is a beautiful blonde woman wearing a strange protective suit. The background of the photo is on a spaceship with a sense of alien technology, and there is an adult orange cat on the ground next to it, and a strange starfish the size of a palm standing next to the orange cat. Has it been more than 20 years? Nick Fury's dark face showed a trace of nostalgia, but soon he restrained himself and put the photo back into a file and put it away. That is the goddess who is no longer here, and the youth that has passed away. Jotunheim Institute, inside the laboratory. Looking at the entire glass wall shattered by the black kitten-shaped Xinian's blow, Thinker murmured to himself in fear as if anticipating his own end. No, don't kill me, I don't want to die here. I was wrong, please, don't. The next moment, a giant starfish tentacle hit the cracked glass wall from the inside out, easily breaking the wall into countless glass fragments. The giant starfish tentacle quickly passed over the black kitten squatting on the ground, and the front end wrapped around the laboratory, the thinker Gaius Graves in the middle. When the other party let out a miserable and painful cry, he violently dragged his body into the closed prison space of the research institute. Thinkers, from now on you will officially lose your thinking. Hold head high. The extraterrestrial species in the shape of a supergiant starfish roared angrily. Even killing the thinker in charge of the Starfish Project would not be able to alleviate the shame and resentment of being imprisoned for more than 20 years. Two giant starfish tentacles landed on both sides of the broken wall. As they exerted force, cracks extended vertically and horizontally along the solid wall of the building. At this moment, the entire institute was shaking violently. The ceiling and floor of the laboratory were also cracked like a spider web, and countless gravel and dust filled the inner space of the building. Get out of here. The expressions of the remaining members of Task Force X changed drastically, and they all turned around to escape from the completely collapsed laboratory. Harley Quinn also specifically looked back. On the collapsed floor deep in the laboratory, the black kitten was still staying calmly. Those pair of animal eyes that were burning like green flames seemed to be enjoying watching the building shatter and collapse. Outside the Jotunheim Institute, local armed army vehicles arrived one after another. Hundreds of rebel soldiers quickly got out of the vehicles and surrounded the institute 3 times inside and outside. Leader Silvio was killed and the Jotunheim Institute was invaded. General Matiosu was obviously furious. Later, no matter what appears, shoot me on the spot. The beard on General Matiosu's face trembled, and he said coldly without anger. Yes, General. The heavily armed rebel soldiers responded in unison. Just then, there was a bang. The earth shook continuously, and shocking cracks spread in the outer wall of the Jotunheim Institute building, ushering in a complete collapse. The several floors of corridors and laboratories inside the institute were shattered and collapsed layer by layer. The remaining members of Task Force. The moment before the part of the building she was in completely tilted and collapsed, Harley jumped to the still intact building in time. But before she could get up from the trembling and slightly sloping floor, a pair of black leather figures suddenly appeared in front of her eyes. Boots. Give me that crystal. The peacemaker wearing a steel helmet and a red shirt looked down at Harley Quinn lying on the ground in front of her and said, Smith, you are really persistent. At this juncture, you still want to wipe the US government's butt. Harley couldn't help but spit out a sentence, her exquisite clown makeup showing a mocking look. No matter what, even if I sacrifice my life, I will kill all the factors that are harmful to the world and peace. The peace messenger looked expressionless, looking at Harley who was trying to get up, and suddenly stretched out his hand. He strangled the girl's neck with his right hand. Ah! Harley grabbed the opponent's 5 fingers with both hands, but it was difficult to break them open, and she struggled fiercely and breathlessly. Hurry up, give me the crystal. Otherwise, you will die here. The peacemaker was like a cruel machine following instructions, staring at Harley Quinn with extremely cold eyes. However, neither of them noticed. The moment the messenger of peace touched Harley's body, it seemed as if some extraordinary evil mechanism was triggered. The black cat claw mark like a strawberry on the side of Harley's neck suddenly and strangely disappeared from the girl's fair skin, and then appeared in the middle of the neck where the peacemaker's palm was holding it. Laugh. Countless invisible dark tentacles, smaller than the smallest needle, stood up from the black cat claw marks. The peace messenger felt a pain in the palm of his right hand, and subconsciously retracted the hand that was holding the girl's neck. He looked down and was surprised to find that the palm of his hand was bloody, as if it had been severely pricked by countless tiny needles. Not only that, there is also an unknown dark liquid seeping from the wound on the palm, like an unknown type of nerve venom, and immediately spreads along the blood vessels and along the right arm throughout the body at a speed visible to the naked eye. What did you do to me? The peacemaker felt inexplicably short of breath and had a heart attack. His black bloodshot eyes looked at Harry in horror, and then his body stiffened and collapsed, and he rolled directly from the break of the sloping floor. Fall down. What happened just now? Looking at the peacemaker who inexplicably let go and fell down, Harley blinked her eyes in confusion. At this time, the black cat claw mark on her neck had returned to its original position on the side of her neck. The imprint returns without any strange silence, like a new tattoo on Harley Quinn. Harley didn't know. This cat's claw mark not only has the extraordinary property that the wounds caused by the claws of the element-devouring beast can never be healed or repaired. It also has the symbiote's own tentacles and venom. This is a mark that can only be left by the 3-in-1 Xinyan, and it cannot be removed in a lifetime. It is also an eternal and evil curse. Bang! The rebel soldiers surrounding Jotunheim were stunned, looking up at the 20-meter-tall super-large starfish monster vaguely emerging from the collapsed research institute. The general was horrified, but he did not forget to shout loudly, "What are you standing there for? Shoot me!" Suddenly, the steel torrent formed by the bullets covered the super-large starfish in the building. The starfish felt pain. It suddenly raised its hands with suction cups, and from the colorful giant tentacles, densely packed small starfish-like bubbles gushed out. These palm-sized small starfish floated in the air, covering the sky and the earth, and accurately fell on the heads of the rebel soldiers, and the 5-clawed suction cups tightly attached to the eyes, mouth and nose of the face. The rebel soldiers could not even make a sound of pain, and fell down in a group like wheat in autumn. Just as they came out for revenge, they were declared over. It's over. General Matiosu watched this horrific scene, standing there in a daze, and was soon sucked by one of the starfish and devoured. At this time, with a whoosh, a small black shadow passed through the air and landed on the top of the super-large starfish. That was a black kitten. Let's talk, Peta. Oh, no, Starro. The 3-in-1 Xinyan spoke hoarsely. Gululu. The middle single eye of the super-large starfish outer space monster Starro glanced upwards, staring at the small dot falling above its head. Talk about, what? Starro was obviously full of anger at the moment, but he probably knew that it was Xinian who helped him break through the cage of the institute, so he still responded. Its response, like a spiritual thought, appeared out of thin air in the mind of the 3-in-1 Xinian. Do you recognize me? I am the Yuan devouring beast. Xinian's cold words had not yet been finished. Bang! A giant tentacle from Starro suddenly slapped his head. Xinian flashed in the air like a small black lightning, dodged extremely quickly and appeared on top of the giant tentacle. Don't mention devouring elements. It was like a fire was poured out of thin air in Starro's already bizarre and angry heart. He vigorously threw the black kitten on his starfish tentacles forward. This city is mine. Leave this city, I won't hurt you. At the same time, perhaps due to absorbing the energy of the surrounding rebel soldiers, Starro's already super-large body expanded once again, like a 30-meter-high starfish-shaped mountain, completely exploding the original research institute building into pieces. Stone tiles. In the dust behind Starro, several figures of both men and women fled secretly. Kodamatis Island Country, modern city sky. The 3-in-1 Xinyan was thrown away like a cannonball. The dark black cat body suddenly expanded 10 times, like a cat-shaped balloon forcibly stagnating at a height of 100 meters. Xinian felt that there was a misunderstanding with Starro. Only, now his humanity is distorted by darkness and evil, he is losing his mind more and more, and he is becoming more and more impatient in dealing with things. Dump me, right? The black kitten suddenly smiled evilly. Its front paws were shaped like thick dark liquid and stretched forward. It quickly stretched and grabbed Starro's body in the distance. Then, Xinyan was once again like a black cannonball, instantly breaking through the sound barrier, streaking across the sky of the daylight city at high speed, and hitting Starro hard on the forehead. Bang! The air wave was set off out of thin air, and a powerful impact caused by the extraordinary physique of the creature alone erupted. The members of Task Force. Starro fell backwards in pain and fell to the ground. Because he was so huge, the ground trembled and shook. You also want to be my enemy, right? Then, cannibalize it. Starro's angry thoughts intertwined and wreaked havoc in the air. Immediately afterwards, the small, colorful starfish floating densely in the air, as well as the jellyfish-like spherical creatures that split from Starro's body, immediately swarmed towards Xinian and surrounded him. The 3-in-1 Xinyan, who was still in the air, was wrapped in jellyfish balls of different colors in less than a second or two, turning into a sphere that was 2 or 3 times the size of his own cat. Then, there were more small starfish, and the inner 3 circles and the outer 3 circles wrapped the sphere layer by layer, evolving into a large sphere with a radius of 5 meters. 100 meters away from the battle. Boss Cat, something is wrong. Seeing this scene, his little eyes shrank. Nanaue, the fat and scarred Shark King, said with some nervousness and fear, Those jellyfish balls have a very powerful nibbling ability. My shark skin was easily bitten just now. Fortunately, there weren't that many attacking me, otherwise I would have been eaten alive by them. The remaining members of Task Force. Harley subconsciously reached out and touched the black cat claw marks on her neck. Cleo, can you send the rats out? Even Captain Robert, who was extremely afraid of rats, couldn't help but say to the girl next to him. However, others quickly noticed. On the shoulder of Cleo, the current second-generation rat catcher, the black-furred rat had woken up, but it was still shivering and trembling. The cat is still there. Cleo looked towards the ruins of Jotunheim and said in fear, there is still one. The rats have retreated further than before. Above the ruins, in the air, the colorful sphere wrapped in jellyfish balls and starfish paused for a few seconds, then trembled slightly and suddenly exploded from the inside out. Poof! But there are countless dark black sharp-armed tentacles protruding from the center of the sphere, piercing all the bubble-like split bodies, and a powerful and evil aura sweeps across the air. Call out! A small black lightning rushed out from within and landed on top of Starro's head again. However, this time Sheenian was far less polite than last time. I saw the black kitten suddenly opened its bloody mouth and bit into the starfish's claw above Starro like it was gnawing. At the same time, countless dark black tentacles stretched out from its body, covering the body of the small mountain-sized starfish like a rope. Who devours whom? Role reversal. At this moment, the black kitten's mouth seemed to turn into a bottomless black hole. The powerful black hole suction, coupled with the pulling of the tentacles, swallowed up Starro, who was hundreds of times larger than itself. How is this possible? It turns out you are really a devourer. Starro finally had a doubtful thought, and before he could resist, his 30-meter-tall starfish body was swallowed by the cat-mouthed black hole. Xinyan landed on the ruins nimbly, exhaled slowly, and suppressed the evil and violence in his heart. The inner space of the devouring beast is similar to a miniature universe. Although it is only a miniature, it is actually much larger than a galaxy. Xinyan consciously put Starro into the relatively safe and stable middle layer of the devouring space, and moved the previous cosmic cube and gem scepter to the deepest part of the devouring space. As for the unstable chaotic bottom layer of the devouring space, there are many alien corpses and warship wreckage floating there. Wait, a flash of inspiration suddenly flashed through Xinyan's mind. Xiao Huang is just a devouring beast cub. When has he swallowed so many alien beings? Also, why did it know and follow its instinct to find Starro, who was imprisoned in Jotunheim more than 20 years ago? Could it be that? Don't wait for the 3-in-1 Xinyan to think too much. At the end of the azure sky on the island countryside, a light spot lit up slightly, and an Iron Man flew from far to near, accompanied by a moving trajectory that broke the sound barrier. Near the sky above the city, the Iron Man with a platinum background fell diagonally, and finally landed on the ground in front of the 3-in-1 Xinyan with a clang. Observe from 100 meters away. Looking at the starfish Starro, who was as tall as a hill on the ruins of Jotunheim, he was swallowed up by the mysterious existence in the shape of a black kitten almost in the blink of an eye. The few surviving members of Task Force. Obviously, they still underestimated the ability of the 3-in-1 Xinyan. But before they had time to take a chance and relax, everyone in Task Force X saw an Iron Man falling from the sky into the battle. Although the paint base color of Iron Man's armor shell has been changed to platinum, and the shape is different from the world-famous normal appearance. But the cold and metallic outer layer of the steel armor, as well as the bright white light overflowing from Iron Man's middle chest and square eye sockets, undoubtedly prove his unique superhero identity. Iron Man, Tony Stark. With a mortal body and a heart of steel, he became famous in one battle and became the eternal god of New York. Another heavyweight is here. Captain Robert took a deep breath and said while looking at the battle situation. You're not here for us, are you? Cleo said slightly nervously. Harley laughed, shrugged and said mockingly, don't worry, we probably aren't qualified to be targeted by him yet. We are probably here for that cute black kitten. Cute, the other people looked at her with strange eyes. It's a pity that it's just a cat. But even if it's a cat, as long as there's love, it'll be fine, right? Harley stuck out her tongue and licked her dark red lips. Choo-choo. Shark King Nanaue continued to grind his teeth. The original site of Jotunheim is above a ruins piled with rubble and scrap iron. Very good. You haven't left yet, otherwise my anti-black flash armor will be wasted. Iron Man slowly stood upright from the position of one knee on the ground. Under the bright sunshine, white gold intersected with lightning. The patterned armor flashed with arcs of cold light. Sheenian, who had the shape of a 3-in-1 black kitten, stared at Iron Man quietly, his eyes that originally glowed with faint blue eyes tending to half of the white holes. Although it is still the dominant party in the 3-in-1 existence, it is increasingly losing its human emotions and inner reason. Now that we have found the target we are looking for on this trip, Starro. Sheenian's original intention was to evacuate the island country and return to Washington, but in the face of the current provocation from Iron Man, how could he endure it with his 3-in-1 violent temper? If you don't accept it, come and fight. So, there were not too many words. Sheenian suddenly grinned like a sinister smile, and the next moment, the floor beneath the black kitten was trampled to pieces. The dark, streamlined body of the cat with traces of afterimages, along with the bursting air and the strong hunting wind, turned into a black lightning and rushed towards Iron Man. Iron Man, wearing the anti-black flash armor, was confident, but he also knew that Black Flash was definitely not that easy to deal with, so from the moment Sheenian's body moved, his body and mind became more tense than ever before. Jarvis, the highest power of all engines. Yes, sir. Before artificial intelligence Jarvis could finish his words, the black lightning was approaching. The black kitten swung its dark claws at Iron Man. At the critical moment, Iron Man's steel armor's neck, arms, waist, legs, soles, and even palms, the whole body's power engine all ejected a stream of hot air, causing Iron Man, who was standing on the ground, suddenly accelerated and leapt upwards. Under the sunlight, he also had a blurry sense of sight. He barely dodged the black kitten's extremely fast and powerful blow. That's right. In order to cope with the Black Flash memory, which can easily break the speed of sound, Tony Stark specifically pursued the ultimate burst and speed of the steel armor, so that the anti-Black Flash can continue to run at the highest power of the full engine for a period of time. Certainly, this is also doomed. The energy consumption of the anti-Black Flash armor every second is astonishing. Even the small nuclear reactor energy reactor on the body cannot allow the anti-Black Flash to fight for more than 10 minutes. And the wear and tear of the components of the anti-Black Flash armor is more than 10 times that of conventional armor. This armor, which cost hundreds of millions of dollars to build, is like a disposable equipment and can only be recycled as scrap after one battle. This is real Krypton gold, becoming stronger. It works. While dodging the black kitten's slap, Iron Man swooped down and punched down with his engine-powered armor. Snap! The black tail behind Sheenian reacted very quickly and twitched upwards. The iron fist and the dark tail collided. In the end, the attacking Iron Man was sent flying. Sure enough, even if I can catch up with him in speed, my strength is still far behind. Iron Man was not surprised by this. His armored boxing was just a feint, and his real response to the enemy was. With the sound of woo-woo, part of the shell on Iron Man's anti-Black Flash armor arm opened, and a certain strategic device inside was activated at this moment, immediately spraying a large cloud of white mist-like gas forward, covering the black kitten's body in an instant. This is high-density tear gas. The white mist-like tear gas not only enveloped the black kitten, but also quickly covered most of the ruins of Jotunheim, making it impossible for Task Force X, 100 meters away, to see clearly what was going on inside. The 3-in-1 Sheenian in the tear gas didn't care about it. Not only did he not close his mouth and nose, but he deliberately opened his bloody mouth. The black hole in his mouth immediately generated a strong suction force, swallowing all the surrounding tear gas. It only lasted for less than 2 or 3 seconds before the tear gas was swallowed up. Above the battle, 20 meters in the air, Iron Man, who was about to be exposed from the gas, suddenly raised his palms down in a signature strike, and the engine light on the palm of the armor also lit up. But this time, instead of shooting out a piercing white laser beam as usual, he cast a continuous ice blue laser and an unknown gas in the form of a spray. Voila! When the ice blue laser and the unknown gas fell on Sheenian, the surrounding air immediately dropped to 0 degrees and condensed into a layer of frost on his dark body and the ground next to him. Laser cooling, high concentration liquid nitrogen. Under the 2 extremely high-intensity refrigeration methods, the black kitten was quickly frozen into an ice sculpture, and the ground within a radius of 5 meters was also frozen. Iron Man seemed to be still worried, and he did not stop until all the refrigeration tools he carried were used up and a layer of actual ice was frozen in a radius of 10 meters. 0-degree freezing. This is one of the main attack methods specially modified and carried by the anti-black flash armor to deal with small and high-intensity supernatural creatures, abandoning conventional laser methods. Did it succeed? Looking down at the black kitten that was frozen together with the earth, the steel suit engine was braking and hovering in the air. The Tony Stark in his heart was breathing a sigh of relief, but he quickly narrowed his pupils. Click. I saw the thick layer of ice covering the black kitten's body suddenly burst into deep and intertwined cracks, and then the surrounding ice burst open, and one of the black beast figures violently leapt upward into the sky. Come again. Tony Stark gritted his teeth, raised his right hand, and sprayed out a large cloud of gas again. The next moment, he was hit by the 3-in-1 Sheenian and was thrown away. Under the powerful impact and inertia, Iron Man moved extremely fast and fell diagonally towards an urban area behind him. People are in the air. Iron Man instinctively raised his left arm, and a strategic device emerged from his wrist, suddenly spraying a beam of high-temperature flame forward. The flame ignited the high-density gas in the air ahead, and suddenly, an even more terrifying flame enveloped the black kitten. Since refrigeration is useless, then burn it at high temperature. Bang! Looking at Iron Man, who fell hard to the hard road ground next to him and rubbed all the sparks on the ground, the remaining 4 members of Task Force X stood quietly. Iron Man, whose body was covered with traces of battle damage, got up from the ground. He glanced at the members of Task Force X next to him, and continued to start the armor engine and fly back towards the battle situation. Above the ruins of Jotunheim, the flames were still burning, like a huge fireball, from which a melting body fell to the ground. Iron Man flew to an altitude of 50 meters above the battlefield. Looking down, he could see the body of the black kitten. The layer of dark body surface seemed to have melted, and stringy dark mucus flowed downwards. This time, the attack really worked. Tony Stark murmured to himself, but he had an inexplicable foreboding feeling in his heart. On the ground, the 3-in-1 Sheenian suddenly opened his eyes roundly, and his eyes turned pale without emotion. The dark mucus of the symbiote on his body seemed to be boiling, and it seemed like a blazing black flame. Due to the excessive use of the extraordinary abilities of the 3-in-1, the humanity that was struggling to maintain finally crossed the bottom line and entered the dark and bottomless abyss. The aura of darkness and evil that was as real as reality rose up around him. If it were an ordinary symbiote, it would have been severely injured by the high-temperature flames just now. However, the symbiote version of Sheenian is not affected by the symbiote's weaknesses such as fire and ultrasound. Of course, the symbiote venom sleeping in the body might have been shot even while lying down. The 3-in-1 state could not be maintained for too long, but it also ushered in its true form at this time. Since you are out of control, there is no need to restrain your heart and strength, but to indulge even more unscrupulously. Like the most evil villain, the black kitten raised its eyes, its empty white eyes staring at Iron Man in the sky. The black mucus that burned from his body, melted and fell to the ground, suddenly turned into sharp and terrifying dark tentacles. Pierce the air at extremely high speed and shoot towards Iron Man, who is stagnant in the air. Iron Man was shocked when he saw this. At the highest power of the whole engine, the anti-black flash armor formed a white lightning and quickly avoided the 3 or 4 previous dark tentacles. But the tentacles that followed one after another far exceeded 2 digits, and they branched off in the middle, geometrically increasing the number. That's thousands of tentacles. Iron Man originally wanted to try to dodge quickly. Seeing this desperate scene, he could only fly forward at full speed away from the tentacles. As a result, he was caught up by the tentacles 100 meters above the ground. The anti-black flash armor was tightly held by the dark tentacles. Hold tight. It's broken, Tony Stark whispered helplessly, and then, he was dragged down with the anti-black flash armor. Boom. Pulled by the tentacles of the 3-in-1 Sheenian, Iron Man descended from a height of 100 meters and smashed into the ruins of the Research Institute building, throwing up a burst of rubble and scrap metal in all directions. A cloud of dust fell. Half of Iron Man's body was buried in the ruins, his anti-black flash armor was full of scratches and cracks, and a corner of his steel mask was shattered, revealing Stark's bearded face. Did I lose again? Stark muttered to himself, the energy circle in his chest and the light in his eyes dimming. At this time, the voice of artificial intelligence Jarvis rang quickly from his ears. "Don't give up, sir." "Of course I can't give up. I'm Iron Man. How could I fall here like this?" Stark's eyes regained their brightness, and finally he shouted in a deep voice with renewed fighting spirit, "Jarvis, use the number 2 backup device for me." Along with his words, the island nation of Codomatus, tens of thousands of meters high in the sky, above the outer space of the Earth. A small satellite with the Stark Industries logo is suspended here quietly. At this moment, 2 square steel objects with golden and red backgrounds were separated from the small satellite. The steel objects were one behind the other, and the one with its own engine at the end fell directly downwards at a high speed. Quickly travels through the atmosphere with precise positioning. A square steel object began to disintegrate and separate in the air, and continued to fall at an accelerated speed. Clang! One of the steel parts, shaped like an iron pillar, fell on the ground in front of the out-of-control 3-in-1 Sheenian, and penetrated into the ground more than half a meter deep, blocking his way. At the same time, there were several other iron pillars inserted into the ground beside him, surrounding the black kitten-shaped Sheenian in a circle. Finally, a thick steel cover is placed on it, and it automatically locks together with the iron pillar below. As for the other square steel object, it rushed straight towards Iron Man in the ruins. Poof! The black kitten's pair of dark claws penetrated the steel cover, and with super strength, it tore open a huge hole on both sides. But with the steel cover delaying time, Iron Man stood up again on the ruins with full health and resurrection. Moreover, it was modified into another armor appearance. It was 2 or 3 meters tall, looking burly and thick, and it was painted with a golden red background. Hulkbuster armor, released for the first time. Tony Stark, who put on the Hulkbuster armor, took a long stride forward. The overall movement was a little slow and heavy, but very powerful, and he waved a big steel fist towards the black kitten in front. In the view of the 3-in-1 Sheenian, this is too slow and can be easily avoided from different directions. However, out of control, he was unreasonable. Sheenian smiled ferociously, raised the dark cat claw that expanded several times, and then punched. Punch to punch. When the Hulkbuster armor's steel fist and Sheenian's expanded and strengthened dark fist collided together. Like a high explosive grenade detonating on the spot, the surrounding air exploded, and huge shock waves and air waves swept outward. Tony Stark's eyes widened in surprise, but under the suppression of the astonishing power coming from his fist, the Hulkbuster armor he controlled couldn't help but take a step back. Even if it is the Hulkbuster armor, the most powerful hand-to-hand force, it still loses a little bit. To know, the Hulkbuster armor is a heavyweight armor designed to withstand the Hulk. Before Tony Stark could react, the black kitten quickly fell on the Hulkbuster armor, opened its mouth and bit into it, and the armor shell, which had been stacked in countless layers, immediately collapsed. Inch by inch, the brand new steel shell was bitten into pieces by the sharp teeth, and the parts were swallowed into the black hole inside the black kitten's throat. Toys are all toys. Iron Man couldn't hold himself any longer, and his mentality exploded. 2 anti-armor strategic weapons were blown up in succession, so much so that at this moment, Stark began to doubt science. Jotunheim, on the ruins. Crack, crack. A very terrifying scene appeared as the sound of swallowing without chewing was clearly heard. Iron Man's brand new giant anti-Hulk armor was bitten all over by the mysterious black kitten in just a few seconds, and the thick armor shell of gold and red was full of pits. People who don't know the inside story might mistakenly think that the anti-Hulk armor is made of paper. The black kitten is still biting inside, and the damage of the anti-Hulk armor is close to half, and it has lost the ability to continue fighting. No matter how hard it is to accept, the fact of defeat is still cruelly in front of us. The anti-Hulk armor flashed a red alarm flash inside. Tony Stark gritted his teeth, and could only be forced to issue the last command helplessly. See. The back of the anti-Hulk armor suddenly split apart quickly, and a platinum Iron Man with traces of war damage flew out of the armored cabin. All his engines started running at the highest power, turning into a white stream of light and rushing obliquely towards the sky outside the island country. However, at this time, Iron Man, wearing the anti-black flash armor, looked much more embarrassed than when he first came. There were wisps of black smoke on his body. The steel shell was severely damaged and the human body could be seen, unable to cover Tony Stark inside. The Iron Man, who was as good as the gods, was actually running away in defeat. 100 meters away, the remaining 4 members of Task Force X witnessed all this and couldn't believe their eyes for a while. The powerful legendary Iron Man was defeated twice, which was enough to make the mysterious Black Kitten a big weird story that the world enjoyed talking about. On the field, Xin Yan, who looked like a 3-in-1 Black Kitten, regained a trace of spirit in his white empty eyes and watched Iron Man disappear in the clouds, without using tentacles to intercept. It should be said that he should thank the other party. Xin Yan vented the darkness and evil that he had been suppressing in his heart on the 2 sets of anti-series steel armor, allowing his humanity to return to the bottom line steadily. Counting it up, it has been nearly 12 hours since he left home, and the duration of the 3-in-1 is almost up. He must leave here as soon as possible, or find a secret place to let Xiao Huang take a bite, and then return to Washington with his ability. Before that, there is one more thing to do. When Xin Yan thought of this, he immediately opened his mouth and swallowed up the last main body of the anti-Hulk armor, and then sprinted with a high-speed leap with the afterimage, and the next moment he came to the remaining members of Task Force X 100 meters away. Chew, Boss Cat, Shark King Nanavi opened his eyes wide in surprise. Harley, the Joker girl, was even more delighted, and couldn't help but walk forward, wanting to hug it again. Captain Robert and the second-generation Mousecatcher, who were a little more normal, showed extremely nervous expressions. They were afraid that the Black Kitten would attack them again, but even with this concern, they did not dare to raise their guns and show any hostility. After all, it was meaningless, and at most they could only die decently. The moment the Black Kitten appeared in front of everyone, it suddenly raised its dark right cat paw forward, and 5 dark tentacles stretched out from the cat paw, piercing into the bodies of Harley Quinn, the second-generation mouse catcher Cleo Cazo, Captain Robert, Shark King Nanavi, and the black-haired mouse. Just when Captain Robert thought he was dead, he found that the tentacles did not penetrate their bodies, but merged into their flesh and blood without pain, and soon pulled out a small instrument from the body. It was like a micro-bomb that had been installed in the body of the X-Force members. The micro-bomb device triggered the system program to explode directly the moment it left the human body. It was just that the dark viscous fluid on the tentacles reacted very quickly to wrap around the micro-bomb, so that the bomb that was enough to blow up the human body only made the wrapped dark fluid swell slightly. Just like extinguishing a few small flames on the tentacles, the Black Kitten quickly retracted the 5 tentacles. Now both sides are even. At this moment, the members of Task Force X can all understand the meaning of Xin Yan's behavior. Of course, helping 4 serious criminals regain their freedom is naturally not Xin Yan's original intention, but the evil style of the 3-in-1. Time, it's almost up. At this time, the 3-in-1 Xin Yan suddenly had an inexplicable feeling, as if he could easily escape into this void. So, just as Harley rushed to him enthusiastically and stretched out her hands to him, the body of the Black Kitten turned from solid to virtual, and disappeared from the spot out of thin air. Gurgle. It was pitch black in front of him, and Xin Yan felt like he had fallen into the sea. Strangely, the water in this sea was warm. Just then, time was up. Xin Yan, the young Yuan Devourer, and the symbiont dormant in the young Yuan Devourer, 2 of the 3-in-1 Xin Yan and the young Yuan Devourer, separated and returned to their original state. With a splash sound, Xin Yan, who had regained his human form and was wearing the long-sleeved pajamas he wore this morning, stretched out the warm water in the space he was in with his body, and soon touched the smooth barrier of the space he was in. Xin Yan was still a little confused, lying in the bathtub that was swelled with a lot of warm water, and what came into view was the familiar ceiling of the bathroom at home. He was clearly still in Kodamatis Island a moment ago, but now he was back in his own bathtub at home. Instant teleportation. Is this one of the abilities of the Devourer? Before Xin Yan thought about it, he heard the sound of the shower next to him, so he subconsciously looked over. In the steamy room next to the bathtub, there were 2 bodies, one large and one small. One was mature and graceful, and the other was immature and white. The long black hair and crimson hair fell like waterfalls with different characteristics. White collar uniforms, small dresses, covers, vests and other clothes were placed aside. The black-haired woman who looked like a wife was standing in full view, washing the hair of the red-haired girl who was sitting obediently on the stool. The shower sprayed water on the woman's curvy white back, flowing down along the perfect body without a trace of fat and bumps. Many crystal water droplets fell on the red-haired girl's exquisite white body, and bounced cutely on her baby-like white skin. Seeing Xin Yan appearing out of thin air in the bathtub, Diana was only slightly surprised, but she was still as calm and composed as always, showing her extremely mature side. "Miss Diana, what was that sound just now?" Wanda asked in a low voice because she had kept her eyes closed due to the bubbles on her head. "Someone is back," Diana said truthfully. "What?" Wanda tilted her head and heard a familiar cat cry next to her. "Is the little emperor back?" Wanda opened her cute eyes immediately. Then, she saw the black-haired boy lying in the bathtub, soaking wet, pressing a little orange cat back into his arms. Seeing Wanda's gaze, Xin Yan forced himself to be calm and waved his hand, saying hello, I'm back. Hey. The girl was stunned for a moment, and then she screamed the loudest she could ever scream. It was still night in Washington, at home. Xin Yan sat on a chair, looking at the Italian fried noodles that Wanda brought out from the kitchen with envy, and felt touched. Should I say that she is worthy of being a maid who has started to learn professional housekeeping? Even in the case of what happened just now, not only did she not take her master to the police station, but she also ran to the kitchen to make a midnight snack while he was taking a bath and changing into clean clothes. Although the three-in-one had eaten a lot in the past half-day, most of it was swallowed into the devouring element space. Xin Yan's body was really hungry. Seeing Wanda gently putting the fried noodles on the table in front of him, he couldn't help but say with apology, "Wanda, just now in the bathroom." The red-haired girl's face immediately turned red, and she quickly stopped it and said, "Don't mention it again. Master, you are a bad guy." The Scarlet Maid Wanda angrily threw this sentence and went to the sofa in the living room where Diana was. Xin Yan cast a look for help at Diana's aunt. Diana seemed to have not noticed this, sitting quietly and elegantly on the sofa, continuing to flip through the literature in her hands. It was as if she was using her own silent actions to express that everything was Xin Yan's fault. At the same time, he was ignored by the two women in the family. Xin Yan sighed, and could only pick up the fork, pour beef sauce on it, and wolf down the hot pasta. Seeing Xin Yan eating so eagerly, I guessed that he might not have eaten anything outside for a long time. Little Wanda, who pretended to be watching TV, couldn't help but look up and secretly glance at Xin Yan, and then quickly retracted her gaze. Diana was concentrating on reading the book throughout the whole process, as if she really didn't care about it, but her thin eyebrows, which were as heroic as swords, were slightly frowned since I don't know when. He had only eaten half of the pasta. Xin Yan suddenly muttered, "Has the temperature dropped again? It's a bit cold at night recently. It would be great if someone could warm the quilt." It can no longer be said to be a hint, Xin Yan almost said to himself explicitly. But the two people, one big and one small, on the sofa in the living room seemed to have not heard anything. One was reading a book, the other was watching TV. No one paid attention to what Xin Yan said. Xin Yan was bored, and he buried his head completely, continuing to eat noodles with a knife and fork. It was late on Sunday night. All the lights in the living room outside had been turned off, letting the night flow quietly. In the single room in the middle, Xin Yan sat on the bed, looking at the closed door of the room. Well, no movement. This lasted for about 10 minutes. "Are you really not coming?" Xin Yan closed his eyes and lay down on the bed tiredly. After a while, he quickly sat up from the bed. "Since you are not coming, can't I go over there?" Xin Yan blinked, immediately picked up the sleeping little emperor next to him with one hand, picked up the pillow on his bed with the other hand, put on his slippers and walked to the door of the room. The living room was pitch black. In order not to disturb Wanda in the next room, Xin Yan walked on tiptoe and felt the wall to reach Aunt Diana's door. Xin Yan's eyes lit up slightly. But Aunt Diana's door was not closed, leaving a gap, from which the dim and warm light of the table lamp overflowed. Just when the door of the first room was closed, the door of the third single room was quietly opened. The doll-like red-haired girl was holding a small pillow, her petite body was wearing white long-sleeved winter pajamas, and she walked into the dark living room carefully in woolen shoes. She came to the door of Xin Yan's room without making a sound. Wanda took a deep breath, as if to cheer herself up, her eyes showed a firm look, and then she gently reached out and opened the door. Walking into the room, Wanda was suddenly stunned. But it was in the middle room, dark and deserted, where was the figure of the boy on the bed. In the first room, Xin Yan walked in holding a cat and a pillow, and saw Aunt Diana sitting on the bedside, with a head of long, thick black hair like a waterfall, flowing freely from her right shoulder, and a thin long-sleeved white dress wrapped around her mature body. The dim light from the lamp on the bedside table beside her gave her exquisite and perfect profile and her graceful and beautiful body a layer of light. "Are you here?" Diana put down the book in her hand, and her soft eyes fell on the boy. "Aunt, my room is too cold." Xin Yan blinked and said casually. "Come quickly, it's warmed up." Diana looked calm and patted the quilt next to her lightly. "Take off your slippers." Xin Yan immediately climbed up with the cat and pillow, slightly pulled up a corner of the duvet, and got into the quilt next to Aunt Diana. The quilt warmed by the demigod's body was naturally just the right temperature for comfort, and it also had a unique violet fragrance, which made Xin Yan want to close his eyes and sleep. Wait, Xin Yan quickly realized that he wanted to stay with his aunt tonight, not for the real purpose of warming the bed, but for the real problem that needed to be solved. "Aunt, listen to me." Xin Yan cheered up and told his Aunt Diana about it. From this morning, when the Yuan Devourer cub Xiao Huang made a request, to the whole process of finding the alien existence Starro, including the details of leaving a venom mark on Harley Quinn, accidentally blowing up Iron Man, and freeing 4 serious criminals in the dream prison. So that's how it is. Diana's beautiful eyes flashed with wisdom. She listened carefully to what Xin Yan had said. While she understood everything that happened to him, she was also checking for omissions in Xin Yan's behavior today. "You still have to wear one of the protective silver bracelets. Otherwise, I can't sense where you are in time." Diana first stretched out a palm, revealing a protective silver bracelet. Because Amazon ignited the beacon some time ago, Xin Yan returned the protective silver bracelet to Diana. After all, the protective silver bracelet can only play a real extraordinary effect when holding a complete pair. Seeing that Aunt Diana looked serious, Xin Yan did not refuse and put the protective silver bracelet back on her hand. Diana pondered and said, "Regarding Iron Man Tony Stark, he is also a big customer like Batman. It's just that 2 steel armors are damaged, so it shouldn't be a problem. However, you need to use your 3-in-1 identity more carefully in the future. Not only will you be targeted by superheroes like Iron Man, but your temperament and state are extremely unstable when you are 3-in-1. Xin Yan nodded solemnly. This time, the 3-in-1 was far more dangerous than the first time. Thanks to Iron Man, the Tool Man, who appeared in time to vent his out-of-control negative emotions. Diana continued. As for the 4 serious criminals, I remember that I will let Batman pay special attention to them. If they don't take the initiative to cause trouble, there is no need to pay attention to them for the time being. Otherwise, I will send them to prison again. That's good. While Xin Yan was relieved, he suddenly remembered something very important and reached out to stroke the little orange cat lying next to his right hand. He said without hesitation, "Little Emperor, release one of Starro's clones. My aunt and I want to talk to it." I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.